The billionaire's Mercedes lay crumpled against an ancient oak smoke rising into the October twilight. Victoria Langford, whose signature could move markets, sat in designer heels worth more than most cars sobbing in the dirt. When Daniel Cooper found her, he saw something the world never would not. The CEO who'd built an empire but a mother who'd lost everything that mattered. "My son won't even answer my calls," she whispered. His response would change both their lives forever. Stay with me to discover how a widowed father's simple words transformed a billionaire's world. Comment your city below. I'd love to know how far this story travels. The forest held its breath in the fading light of an October afternoon. Daniel Cooper adjusted the straps of his worn backpack, his boots crunching through layers of fallen leaves that carpeted the trail he'd walked 100 times before. This was his sanctuary, the place where grief couldn't quite reach him, where the weight of being a 35-year-old widower raising a daughter alone seemed to lift, if only for a few precious hours. He'd left Lily with Mrs. Henderson again. The elderly neighbor never asked for payment, just waved him off with that knowing smile that said she understood a man sometimes needed to walk alone with his ghosts. 3 years since Sarah's death, and these woods still felt like the only place he could breathe without that crushing weight on his chest. The trail curved ahead, disappearing into a grove of birches, whose white bark glowed like bones in the dimming light. Daniel paused, inhaling the sharp scent of pine and damp earth. Somewhere in the distance, a woodpecker hammered its rhythm against dead wood. Normal sounds. Peaceful sounds. Until they weren't. A metallic groan echoed through the trees, followed by the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Daniel's body tensed, every muscle coiled like a spring. 20 years of construction work had taught him to recognize danger in sound, the crack before a beam fails, the whistle before something falls. This was different. This was violence meeting stillness. He ran. His boots slipped on wet leaves as he crashed through undergrowth branches, tearing at his flannel shirt. The sounds grew louder, hissing like a wounded animal, and beneath it something else. Crying, raw broken sobbing that made his chest tighten with recognition. He knew that sound, had made it himself in hospital corridors and empty bedrooms. The trees opened into a small clearing where the old logging road cut through. Daniel skidded to a stop, his breath catching in his throat. A silver Mercedes, the kind he'd only seen in magazines, had wrapped itself around a massive oak. The front end was destroyed hood, buckled like aluminum foil, steam rising from the exposed engine in ghostly wisps. The driver's door hung open, and there, 20 feet from the wreck, sat a woman. She was everything out of place in these woods. A cream-colored coat that probably cost more than his truck pooled around her on the forest floor. Her hair, platinum blonde, professionally styled, even in disaster, fell forward as she hunched over her entire body, shaking with sobs. Her shoes, impossibly high heels in deep burgundy, lay scattered beside her, one heel snapped clean off. Daniel approached slowly, the way he'd approached Lily when nightmares woke her screaming. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" The woman's head snapped up, and Daniel found himself looking into eyes the color of winter sky, pale blue rimmed red mascara, painting dark rivers down cheeks that belonged on magazine covers. She was beautiful in that untouchable way wealthy women always seem to be, but right now she looked shattered, actually truly broken. She started, then stopped, her hand going to her throat. I can't, it's okay," Daniel said, dropping to one knee a safe distance away. His construction site first aid training kicked in. "Can you tell me if you're injured? Any pain in your neck, your back?" She shook her head, a jerky, desperate movement. "No, I'm not. The airbag, I'm fine." Fine. Daniel almost laughed at the word. Nothing about this scene said fine. He studied her more carefully. Her hands were bleeding, not badly, just scratches from brambles. Her coat was torn at the shoulder. But the real damage wasn't physical. He'd seen this before in his own reflection those first months after Sarah. "I'm Daniel," he said, settling onto the cold ground, maintaining that careful distance. "Daniel Cooper. I live about 3 miles that way." He pointed vaguely west. "You want to tell me what happened?" She looked at him, then really looked as if seeing him for the first time. Her eyes traveled over his worn jeans, his faded flannel, the calluses on his hands. He could see her calculating, categorizing the way rich people always did. Blue collar, Manual labor. Harmless. Victoria, she said finally. Victoria Langford. The name hit him like cold water. Victoria Langford. Everyone knew that name. Langford Industries. The billionaire CEO who'd built an empire from nothing, whose business strategies were taught in universities, whose face graced Forbes covers. And here she was crying in his woods, looking like the world had ended. Well, Victoria, Daniel said, keeping his voice steady, looks like you've had better days. A sound escaped her half laugh, half sob. Better days. Yes, you could say that. Your phone working. Need me to call someone? Tow truck's gonna take a while to get out here, but no. The word came out sharp, desperate. She pressed her hands to her face. No, please, I can't have anyone. The press, they'll... Understanding dawned. The wreck. The tears, the desperate flight into nowhere. This wasn't an accident. This was someone running. Daniel knew about running. Had done it himself those early days, driving until the road ran out, trying to escape something that lived inside his own chest. Okay, he said simply. No calls. But that car's not going anywhere and temperature's dropping. You can't stay out here. I don't care. The words were muffled by her hands. I don't care about anything anymore. Daniel was quiet for a moment, listening to the forest settle around them. A crow called overhead. The Mercedes ticked and cooled its dying sounds like a metallic heartbeat slowing. You got kids? He asked suddenly. Victoria's hands dropped. She stared at him. What? Kids? You got any? Her face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled over and she wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly. A son. Marcus. He's 28. Tell me about him. Why? The word was bitter sharp. Why would you? Because you're sitting in the woods crying, and I'm guessing it's got something to do with him. And because I've got a daughter 7 years old, and she's the only reason I'm still breathing some days. So tell me about Marcus. Victoria was silent for so long Daniel thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. He won't speak to me. Haven't seen him in 2 years. He says I chose my company over him, over his father, over everything that mattered. She laughed bitter and broken. And the worst part? He's right. I did. I chose board meetings over birthday parties. I chose mergers over Little League games. I chose... She gestured at her destroyed car, her expensive coat, all of this over my own son. Daniel let the confession hang in the air between them. He understood the weight of regret, how it could crush you, make you do desperate things, like drive too fast on winding roads, like wrap your car around a tree because stopping felt impossible when everything inside you was screaming. My wife died 3 years ago, he said quietly. Cancer. 8 months from diagnosis to funeral. You know what she said to me near the end? She said, don't let Lily forget how to laugh. Not, I love you. Not, take care of yourself. Just, don't let our daughter forget joy exists. Victoria looked at him, really seeing him now. This stranger in work boots who'd stumbled into her catastrophe. Did she, Victoria asked, forget I mean every damn day for 6 months? Then one day she laughed at something stupid. Our neighbor's cat fell off a fence chasing a bird. Just giggled like the world wasn't ending. And I realized kids don't forget joy. They just need someone to show them it's okay to feel it again. Marcus isn't 7, Victoria said. He's a grown man who's made his choice. He's made it very clear he doesn't need me, doesn't want me. Maybe, Daniel said. Or maybe he's waiting for you to prove he's wrong. Victoria's laugh was hollow. With what more money? Another trust fund, I tried that. He sent the check back torn into pieces. So, don't send money. Then what? What could I possibly? Show up, Daniel said simply. Just show up. The words hung between them like a challenge. Victoria stared at him, this stranger with dirt under his fingernails and wisdom in his eyes that had nothing to do with stock portfolios or market strategies. He lives in Boston, she said, has a little coffee shop in the North End. Marcus's grind terrible name, but he loves it. I drove by once, saw him through the window laughing with customers, and I couldn't go in. He looked so happy. Happy without me. You drove 3 hours just to look through a window. 4 hours. Traffic was terrible. She wiped at her face, smearing mascara worse. I sat in my car for 3 hours trying to work up the courage. My own son and I couldn't walk through a door. Daniel shifted his knees, protesting against the cold ground. You know what the hardest part of being a single parent is? Victoria shook her head. Showing up when you've got nothing left. When you're so tired you can't see straight, when grief's eating you alive, when you'd rather crawl into bed and never come out. But you show up anyway. Make the lunch. Read the story. Pretend the world's not ending, because that's what love does. I don't know how to do that, Victoria whispered. I know how to run companies. I know how to read markets, predict trends, maximize profits. But I don't know how to just show up, not without an agenda, not without a plan. Then learn, Daniel said. Same way you learned all that other stuff. It's not that simple. Never said it was simple, said it was necessary. Victoria looked at her hands, the perfect manicure now chipped and dirty. What if he rejects me? What if I try and he just doesn't want me? Daniel thought of Sarah in her hospital bed, fighting for each breath, still trying to make him promise to live, really. Live, not just exist. Then at least you'll know you tried. That's more than most people get. A wind picked up, sending leaves swirling around them like confetti at the world's saddest party. Victoria shivered, pulling her ruined coat tighter. Come on, Daniel said, standing and extending his hand. Let's get you somewhere warm. We can deal with the car later. She looked at his hand, rough, calloused, steady for a long moment. I don't even know you. No, Daniel agreed. But you're sitting in the woods crying about your son, and I'm a dad who knows what it's like to feel lost. Sometimes that's enough. Victoria took his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone who looked so broken. Daniel helped her to her feet, noticing how she favored her left ankle. You sure you're not hurt? Just twisted. These shoes... She looked at the broken heel with disgust. $800 for shoes you can't even walk in. What was I thinking? That they looked good, Daniel said, picking up both shoes and handing them to her. Nothing wrong with wanting to look good. She almost smiled. Almost. You always this nice to crazy women who crash cars in your woods. These aren't my woods, and you're not crazy. You're hurt. There's a difference. They started walking, Victoria limping slightly, holding onto Daniel's arm for support. The path was rough roots and rocks hidden under the carpet of leaves, and she struggled even in bare feet. Here, Daniel said, stopping. Without ceremony, he scooped her up, one arm under her knees, the other around her shoulders. What do you put me down? I'm fine. You're barefoot with a twisted ankle, and it's a mile to where I parked my truck. Just let someone help you. When's the last time you did that? Victoria went still in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, all sharp angles and designer fabric. I don't remember, she admitted quietly. They walked in silence for a while, Daniel's breathing steady despite the burden, Victoria rigid as a board in his arms, clearly uncomfortable with the vulnerability of being carried. Your daughter, she said suddenly. Lily. Tell me about her. Daniel's face softened. She's 7, going on 30. Loves dinosaurs, hates vegetables, thinks she can talk to animals. Has her mom's eyes green like spring grass and my stubbornness. She's everything. Does she know about her mom? Yeah, we talk about Sarah all the time. Keep her pictures everywhere. Lily knows she was loved by someone amazing who had to leave too soon. How do you do it? The single parent thing? Daniel adjusted his grip slightly as they navigated around a fallen log. Badly most days. Burned dinner last night. Forgot about picture day at school last week. She went in a dinosaur t-shirt with a grape juice stain, but she laughed about it, said she looked authentic. 7 years old and using authentic. Reads everything she can get her hands on, including my construction manuals, which leads to interesting dinner conversations about load-bearing walls. Despite everything, Victoria found herself almost smiling. Marcus was like that, obsessed with how things worked, took apart every electronic in the house. I was so angry when he dismantled my laptop. I was supposed to present to the board the next day, and my 12-year-old had turned it into spare parts. What did you do? Her face fell. Had my assistant get me a new one. Grounded him for a month. Missed his science fair because of that board meeting. She was quiet for a moment. He'd built a robot. Won first place. I found the trophy years later shoved in the back of his closet. They emerged from the heavier woods onto the old logging road where Daniel had parked his pickup, a battered Ford that had seen better decades. He set Victoria down gently beside it, opening the passenger door. It's not a Mercedes, he said apologetically. It's perfect, Victoria said and meant it. The bench seat was worn soft patches of duct tape holding tears closed. It smelled like coffee and sawdust and something indefinably safe. Daniel started the engine, cranking the heat. There's a blanket behind the seat if you're cold. Victoria reached back, pulling out a fleece blanket covered in cartoon princesses. Lily's, she gets cold on the way to school, refuses to wear her coat because it's not cool. At 7, social pressure starts early these days. They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the truck's old heater gradually warming the cab. Victoria watched the trees blur past her mind, racing, but going nowhere like a hamster on a wheel. Why were you in the woods? She asked suddenly. Daniel's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. Same reason you were driving too fast on that curve. Sometimes you need to be somewhere that doesn't remind you of everything you've lost. Does it work? No. But it's better than sitting at home staring at her coffee mug that I can't throw away, or her pillow that still smells like her shampoo if I bury my face in it just right. Victoria turned to look at him. This stranger who spoke about grief like it was a friend he'd gotten to know well. 3 years and it's still that bad. Not bad, just present. Like background music you can't turn off. Some days it's quiet. Some days it's so loud I can't hear anything else. I'm sorry, Victoria said. About your wife. I'm sorry about your son. He's not dead. No, but the relationship is at least right now. And that's a kind of grief too. Victoria was quiet, processing this. She'd never thought of it that way, that she was grieving. It seemed too dramatic, too self-indulgent. But sitting in this truck with a stranger who carried his own losses, she realized that's exactly what it was. Grief for the mother she'd never been, for the moments she'd never get back, for the son who looked at her like she was a stranger. I don't know how to fix it, she admitted. Maybe you don't, Daniel said, turning onto a paved road. Maybe you just start fresh, not fixing building. Building what? Whatever he'll let you, even if it's just standing in his coffee shop line once a week ordering a latte you don't want, even if he ignores you every time. You show up anyway. That sounds like stalking. That sounds like not giving up. They pulled into a small gas station, fluorescent lights harsh after the soft darkness of the woods. Daniel parked near the door. Wait here. He came back with a first aid kit, a bottle of water, and a pair of flip-flops. Size 7. How did you... Lucky guess. He knelt by the open passenger door, gently taking her foot to inspect the ankle. His hands were gentle despite their roughness, careful as he cleaned the scratches on her feet from the woods. Not too swollen. You'll be okay. You some kind of medical expert? Construction sites. Someone's always getting hurt. You learn the basics. He helped her into the flip-flops. They're Lily's. She leaves them everywhere. Pink unicorns, Victoria noted, looking at the cheerful design. Very CEO appropriate. You'd be surprised how many problems can be solved with unicorns. Victoria's phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She pulled it out, seeing the stream of messages. Board members, assistants, lawyers. The entire machinery of her empire wondering where she'd disappeared to. She turned it off. Don't you need to answer those? Daniel asked. They're not going anywhere. For once, neither am I. She looked at him. Would you tell me more about how you did it? Raised Lily alone after... Daniel leaned against the truck's doorframe. You really want to know. I need to know. How do you love someone when you've forgotten how... when you've spent so many years speaking a different language entirely? Daniel thought for a moment. You know what Lily said to me about a month after Sarah died? I was trying to make her breakfast pancakes because Sarah always made pancakes on Sundays. I was burning them, smoking up the whole kitchen, just failing spectacularly. And Lily looked at me with these serious eyes and said, Daddy Mommy's pancakes were better, but yours have more love because you're trying so hard. Victoria's eyes filled with fresh tears. Children forgive so easily. No, Daniel corrected. Children love easily. There's a difference. Forgiveness takes understanding what was lost. Love just takes showing up. Marcus understands what was lost. Every birthday, every baseball game, every night I worked late instead of reading him stories. Then maybe what he needs isn't forgiveness. Maybe he just needs to see you try to make bad pancakes. Victoria laughed, surprising herself. I don't even know how to make pancakes. YouTube, Daniel said seriously. Lily and I learned everything from YouTube. Braiding hair, sewing buttons, having conversations about where babies come from. How'd that last one go? Terribly. She now thinks babies are delivered by Amazon Prime. Victoria laughed again, and this time it felt real, bubbling up from somewhere deep that hadn't been touched in years. She sounds wonderful. She is, and exhausting, and infuriating, and the best thing that ever happened to me. He paused. That's the thing about kids. They're never just one thing. Marcus isn't just angry. He's not just hurt. He's also the kid who took apart your laptop, who won the science fair, who makes coffee in the North End. He's all of it. But he won't let me see any of it anymore. Today, no. Tomorrow, maybe no. But next month, next year, you don't know unless you try. They got back in the truck, Daniel navigating through increasingly familiar streets. Victoria recognized the area, the outskirts of Millbrook, a small town about an hour from Boston where normal people lived normal lives. You said you live around here? Just up ahead. Nothing fancy, just a place for me and Lily. Could I see it? I know that's weird, but I haven't been in a real home in so long. Everything in my life is staged, perfect, cold. Daniel looked at her, this billionaire in his daughter's unicorn flip-flops, mascara-stained and broken, and made a decision. Sure, but I warn you, it looks like a 7-year-old tornado hit it. The house was small, a 2-story colonial that had seen better years but wore its age with dignity. The porch light was on warm yellow against the growing darkness. Mrs. Henderson's silhouette moved past the front window. That's my neighbor, Daniel explained. She watches Lily when I need to clear my head. They walked up the path, Victoria limping slightly, but managing. The door opened before they reached it. Daniel Cooper. I was about to send out a search. Mrs. Henderson stopped, taking in Victoria's appearance. Oh my, dear, are you all right? Car accident, Daniel said simply. Mrs. H., this is Victoria. Victoria, Mrs. Henderson. The older woman's eyes were sharp but kind. Come in, both of you. You look like you need tea. Or something stronger. The house's interior was exactly what Victoria expected and nothing she could have imagined. Toys scattered across worn hardwood. Children's artwork covering the refrigerator. Photos everywhere, a beautiful woman with kind eyes and dark hair smiling from dozens of frames. Sarah. This was Sarah's house, still just with her physical presence removed. Daddy? A small missile in dinosaur pajamas launched itself at Daniel's legs. You were gone forever. 2 hours a monster, that's not forever. Lily peered around her father at Victoria, curious but unafraid. Why is that lady wearing my flip-flops? Her shoes broke, Daniel said simply. So I lent her yours. Oh, okay. Did you cry? This last was directed at Victoria. Your face looks like you cried. I have tissues in my room if you need some. They have puppies on them. Victoria found herself kneeling despite her ankle meeting this child at eye level. Thank you. That's very kind. Lily studied her with that unnerving intensity children possess. You're pretty, like a magazine lady, but sad. Daddy's sad too, but he pretends he's not. Lily, Daniel started. What? It's true. You cry in the shower. I can hear you sometimes. Mrs. Henderson rescued them all. Lily, why don't you show our guest your dinosaur collection while your dad and I make tea? Lily grabbed Victoria's hand without hesitation. Come on, I have 73 dinosaurs, but T-Rex is the best because he has tiny arms like when I try to make my bed. Victoria found herself being pulled into a small bedroom that was an explosion of color and chaos. Dinosaurs everywhere, toys, posters, bedding, books stacked in precarious towers. A goldfish swimming lazy circles in a bowl labeled Mr. Bubbles III. "What happened to the first two Mr. Bubbles?" Victoria asked. "They went to live in the big ocean in the sky," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Daddy says everything dies, but that's okay because it makes room for new things. Like how Mommy died, but then I got to learn how to make Daddy laugh again." Victoria felt her heart crack. This child, this 7-year-old philosopher in dinosaur pajamas, understood something she'd spent 60 years missing. "Do you miss her?" "Your mom." Lily considered this, organizing her dinosaurs in a careful line. "I don't remember her much, just pieces. Like how she smelled like flowers and how she hummed when she cooked. But Daddy tells me stories, so it's like I know her anyway." "Do you have kids?" "A son, Marcus." "Is he nice?" "Very nice. He makes coffee for people." "That's good. Coffee makes Daddy happy in the morning. Well, less grumpy anyway." She handed Victoria a plastic stegosaurus. "This is Stanley. He's nervous around new people, but he likes you." Victoria held the toy carefully as if it were precious crystal. "How can you tell?" "He's not hiding. Nervous dinosaurs hide under the bed. Brave ones stay out even when they're scared." Daniel appeared in the doorway with 2 mugs of tea. "Lily, time to brush teeth." "But Daddy, I'm showing Victoria my collection. And you can show her more another time if she wants to visit again. Teeth. Now." Lily sighed dramatically but obeyed, pausing to hug Victoria's legs on her way out. "You can keep Stanley for tonight. He'll help with the sad." Then she was gone, leaving Victoria holding a plastic dinosaur and trying not to sob. "She's extraordinary," Victoria managed. "She's something," Daniel agreed, handing her the tea. "Never know what's going to come out of her mouth." They sat in the living room surrounded by the comfortable chaos of a lived-in home. Victoria couldn't remember the last time she'd been somewhere that wasn't professionally decorated, where things existed because they were loved, not because they looked good. "I have 5 houses," she said suddenly. 5 houses, and none of them feel like this." "Like what?" "Alive, warm, like people actually live there instead of just existing." Daniel sipped his tea. "That's the difference between a house and a home. Lily makes this a home. Without her, it's just walls and a roof. Marcus had a room at my main house. I kept it exactly the same for years after he left for college, like a shrine to my failures as a mother. He asked me to turn it into something else, a gym, an office, anything. Said it was creepy. I couldn't do it." "Why?" "Because then I'd have to admit he was never coming back." They sat quietly, the old house settling around them with comfortable creaks and sighs. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows slightly. "I should call about your car," Daniel said. "Tomorrow," Victoria said. "Please, just let me sit here for a while. In a real home with real people who know about real loss and real love." "Stay as long as you need." Mrs. Henderson appeared, coat on. "I'm heading home. Lily's in bed, supposedly, though I heard giggling a minute ago. Victoria, dear, it was nice meeting you. Whatever brought you here, I hope you find what you're looking for." After she left, Daniel and Victoria sat in comfortable silence. The house felt different at night, softer somehow, like it was holding them both gently. "Tell me about Sarah," Victoria said. Daniel's face changed, softening and sharpening simultaneously. She was the best person I knew. Kindergarten teacher. Could make anyone laugh. Saw good in everything, even me when I was just some construction worker with big dreams and empty pockets. "How did you meet?" "Her car broke down. I stopped to help. She was trying to change her own tire in a wedding dress. She was in a friend's wedding running late. Covered in grease, swearing like a sailor, absolutely furious. Most beautiful thing I'd ever seen." Victoria smiled. "Love at first sight. Love at first laugh. She made some joke about always being a bridesmaid, never a mechanic. I was gone." "How long were you married?" 10 years. Best 10 years even with the last one. Even watching her fade away, she was still teaching me things. How to be brave. How to let go. How to hold on to what matters. What matters?" Daniel looked at her. Really looked at her. "The small stuff everyone says not to sweat." Lily's laugh. Bad pancakes on Sunday, dinosaur pajamas, showing up even when you don't know what to say. Victoria clutched her mug, the warmth seeping into her cold fingers. I don't know how to do small. Everything in my life has always been big. Big deals, big money, big mistakes. Then start tiny. One text, one phone call, one cup of coffee in his shop. What if he throws me out? Then you go back the next day. That's insane. That's love. Victoria's phone buzzed again. This time she looked 17 missed calls from her CFO. The world's falling apart without me. Is it though? She considered this. No, they're all perfectly capable. I just trained them to need me so I'd feel important. Maybe it's time to train them differently. So I can do what sit in my empty houses and think about everything I missed. So you can learn to make bad pancakes. Victoria laughed, but it was edged with tears. You make it sound so simple. Not simple, Daniel corrected. Just necessary. You asked how I do it, raise Lily alone. The answer is badly with help and one day at a time. That's all any of us can do. A small voice from the hallway interrupted them. Daddy, I can't sleep. Lily padded out in her dinosaur pajamas, trailing a stuffed triceratops. Without hesitation, she climbed into Daniel's lap, then reached out to hold Victoria's hand. Bad dreams? Daniel asked. No, sad dreams. About the magazine lady. Victoria's breath caught. About me. You were all alone in a big castle with no one to read you stories. Lily's eyes were serious, old beyond her years. That's the saddest thing I could think of. Victoria felt tears sliding down her cheeks. This child, this beautiful, intuitive child, had seen straight through her in the way only children can. But it's okay, Lily continued, because in my dream you learned how to read stories to yourself, and then other people came to listen, and your castle got full of people and stories, and it wasn't sad anymore. That's a beautiful dream, sweetheart, Daniel said softly. It wasn't a dream. It was a wake-up dream. The kind where you're not really asleep, but you're not really awake either. She looked at Victoria with those intense eyes. You should call your son. How did you... You have the same look Daddy gets when he talks about Mommy, like you lost something but you don't know where to look for it. Victoria found herself pulling this strange, wonderful child into a hug. Lily went willingly wrapping her small arms around Victoria's neck. He makes coffee, Lily said into Victoria's shoulder. That's good. Coffee makes people happy. Maybe he could teach you to make coffee and you could teach him something. What could I possibly teach him? Lily pulled back, considering. How to be brave enough to let someone love you even when you think you don't deserve it. Daddy says that's the hardest thing to learn. Daniel's eyes widened. When did I say that? To Mrs. Henderson when you thought I was asleep, but I'm never asleep when you think I am. Victoria laughed through her tears. You're raising a spy. Apparently so. Daniel stood Lily in his arms. Come on, monster. Back to bed. For real this time. Can Victoria tuck me in too? They both looked at Victoria, who nodded, unable to speak. The three of them went to Lily's room where the nightlight cast dinosaur shadows on the walls. Lily climbed into her bed, arranging approximately 17 stuffed animals around her. Tell me a story, she demanded. Victoria, you tell it. Victoria sat on the edge of the bed, searching her memory. When had she last told Marcus a bedtime story? Had she ever, once upon a time, she began, there was a queen who lived in a tall glass tower. The story that emerged surprised her, a queen who forgot how to speak any language but the language of coins and kingdoms until a small bird taught her to sing again. By the end, Lily was asleep, breathing softly, one hand still holding Victoria's. Daniel motioned for her to follow him out. They stood in the hallway and Victoria realized she was crying again. I never did that for Marcus, not once. I had nannies for bedtime. You did it for Lily. That counts. Does it? Or am I just playing pretend with someone else's child because it's easier than facing my own? Daniel leaned against the wall, considering her question seriously. Maybe you're practicing. Maybe you're remembering. Maybe you're learning. Does it matter which? They returned to the living room, but the moment felt different now. Heavier. Victoria knew she had to leave soon, had to face the wreckage of her car and her life. I should call that tow truck, she said. Yeah, I'll drive you back. But neither moved. They sat there, two broken people in a house full of love and loss, neither quite ready to return to their separate worlds. What was the worst part? Victoria asked suddenly. After Sarah died. What was the absolute worst part? Daniel didn't hesitate. The silence. Not just the quiet, but the absence of her particular sounds, the way she hummed when she was happy, her terrible singing in the shower, the way she talked to herself while cooking. The house felt dead without her noise. Marcus used to bang on drums, had a whole kit in the garage, drove me insane. I soundproofed his room, then made him practice at school. The house has been quiet ever since he left. Maybe that's where you start. Make some noise he might want to hear. Like what? Like the mother learning to speak her son's language instead of expecting him to speak hers. Victoria's phone rang. Her CFO again. This time she answered. Richard, I'm fine. The car's totaled, but I'm fine. Cancel my meetings for the next week. Actually, cancel them for the next month. She could hear the panic in Richard's voice, even from where Daniel sat. The Singapore deal can wait. The merger can wait. Everything can wait. She paused, listening. Because I just remembered something more important than any deal. Handle it, Richard. That's why I pay you more than some small country's GDP. She hung up, turning off her phone entirely. That felt either very good or very stupid, she said. Most important decisions do. They finally made the call about the car, Daniel speaking to the tow company, arranging for them to meet at the wreck site. The drive back was different. Comfortable now, like they'd crossed some invisible bridge from strangers to something else. The Mercedes looked worse in the harsh lights of the tow truck. Thousands of dollars of German engineering reduced to scrap metal. Victoria felt nothing looking at it. It was just a thing. An expensive thing, but still just metal and glass. You sure you don't want to go to the hospital? The tow truck driver asked. That's a hell of a wreck. I'm fine, Victoria said. Just need to get home. I'll drive you, Daniel offered. Boston's not that far. You don't have to. Lily's asleep. Mrs. H won't mind staying. Let me do this. The drive to Boston took 90 minutes, filled with comfortable conversation and longer, comfortable silences. Victoria directed him to her Beacon Hill townhouse, 5 stories of historic brick that had cost more than most people's retirement funds. This is home, Daniel asked. This is a house, Victoria corrected. You taught me the difference. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone, scrolling to Marcus's contact. His picture was from 5 years ago, college graduation, both of them smiling before everything fell apart completely. I don't know what to say. Start with hello. At midnight. He owns a coffee shop. He's probably still up prepping for tomorrow. Victoria stared at the phone. Such a small thing, but it felt like lifting a mountain. Her thumb hovered over the call button. What if... Stop. Just do it. She pressed call. 1 ring, 2, 3. She was about to hang up when, what do you want? Marcus's voice, cold and tired. Hello? Victoria said, her voice cracking. I wanted to say hello. Silence. Then, are you drunk? No, I was in an accident. I'm fine, she added quickly. But I was sitting there in the woods and this man, this stranger, he asked me about you. And I realized I couldn't tell him anything recent. I don't know your favorite coffee blend. I don't know if you still drum. I don't know anything that matters. Whose fault is that? Mine. Entirely mine. I know that. I'm not calling to make excuses or ask for forgiveness. I wanted to hear your voice. Another long silence. Victoria could hear noise in the background, espresso machines maybe. Music. I have to go, Marcus said. Early morning tomorrow. I know. Marcus, I love you. I know I haven't shown it. I know I chose wrong every single time. But I love you. I've always loved you. I just forgot how to show it. Mom. His voice broke slightly on the word. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. I just needed you to know. Good night, Marcus. She hung up before he could respond, her hand shaking. That was brave, Daniel said softly. That was terrifying. Most brave things are. She looked at him, this stranger who'd changed her life in a few hours. Thank you. For everything. For finding me. For carrying me. For showing me what I've been missing. You would have figured it out. No, Victoria said firmly. I wouldn't have. I would have driven that car into a tree and either died or walked away and gone right back to my empty life. You saved me. Lily saved me. Save yourself, Daniel said. Show up tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. That's how you save yourself. Victoria leaned over and kissed his cheek, soft and grateful. If you ever need anything, I'll call. But Victoria, I don't need your money or your connections. Neither does Marcus. Just be the person who sat on my daughter's bed tonight telling stories. That's who Marcus needs. She got out of the truck, standing on the sidewalk in front of her perfect empty house. Daniel waited until she was inside before driving away back to his small house full of dinosaurs and memories and love. Victoria stood in her marble foyer, designer everything surrounding her, and felt the silence Daniel had described. Not just quiet absent. No one hummed here, no one laughed here, no one lived here. She walked through the rooms, seeing them as if for the first time. The staging, the perfection, the absence of any real life. Even her home office, where she spent most of her time, was sterile. No photos. No personal touches. Just efficiency and emptiness. She climbed to the 4th floor to the door she rarely opened. Marcus's room exactly as he'd left it at 18. Drum kit in the corner. Posters of bands she'd never heard of. Books scattered on every surface. This was the only room in the house that felt real. Victoria sat on his bed, picking up a photo from his nightstand. His 16th birthday. They were both smiling, but she could see it now, the distance already growing. She was looking at the camera. He was looking away towards something she couldn't see. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Daniel. Made it home safe. Lily woke up and asked if the sad magazine lady was okay. Told her you were learning to be. That seemed to satisfy her. She wants you to know Stanley, the Stegosaurus, is brave because he's scared but does things anyway. Pretty sure that's meant to be profound. Take care, Victoria. And remember, just show up. Victoria smiled, holding the phone like a lifeline. Then she opened her laptop and did something she'd never done before. She searched how to make coffee on YouTube. If she was going to show up at Marcus's shop, she might as well speak his language. The next morning arrived with autumn rain pattering against Victoria's bedroom windows. She hadn't slept, instead spending hours watching coffee-making tutorials, taking notes, like she was preparing for a board presentation. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd built a billion-dollar empire, but needed YouTube to teach her how to make a simple latte. At 7 a.m., she stood in her pristine kitchen, staring at the espresso machine she'd owned for 3 years but never touched. Her housekeeper had always made her coffee perfect and silent, appearing at her elbow whenever needed. But the housekeeper was off today, and Victoria was alone with $18,000 of Italian engineering she didn't understand. Her first attempt produced something that looked like motor oil and tasted worse. The second wasn't much better. By the 5th try, she had something that might generously be called coffee adjacent. She thought of Daniel's words about bad pancakes and love and found herself laughing alone in her kitchen. When had she last done that? Her phone rang. Richard, her CFO, probably panicking about the canceled meetings. But it wasn't Richard. You called me last night. Marcus's voice uncertain. Victoria nearly dropped her phone. Marcus, yes, I'm sorry if I bothered you. You said you were in an accident. Minor. The car took the worst of it. Which car? The question surprised her. The Mercedes. The S-Class, you loved that car. It was just a car. She paused, then added, I'm learning that about a lot of things. They're just things. Silence stretched between them, but it felt different from their usual silences. Less hostile. More waiting. Why did you really call? Marcus asked. Victoria looked at her terrible coffee thought of Lily's dinosaurs, of Daniel's steady hands. Because a 7-year-old girl told me I was sad, and she was right. Because her father asked me about you, and I realized I couldn't answer any question that mattered. Because I've spent 20 years speaking a language you never wanted to learn instead of learning yours. What language is that? Coffee, apparently. I've been trying to make espresso all morning. It's horrible. She heard something that might have been a laugh. You're trying to make coffee, I'm terrible at it, but I thought maybe if I learned we could talk about something, not stocks or mergers or trust funds. Just coffee. Mom. He stopped, and she could hear him breathing. I can't do this. I can't just pretend everything's fine because you suddenly want to learn about coffee. I'm not asking you to pretend anything. I'm trying to show up, Marcus. Even if you slam the door. Especially if you slam the door. What does that even mean? Victoria thought of Daniel carrying her through the woods, of Lily offering her dinosaur for comfort. I met someone yesterday, a single father. His wife died 3 years ago, and he's raising his daughter alone. He told me that showing up is what love does, even when you have nothing to offer, even when you're broken. You just show up. Is this some kind of therapy thing? No. This is me standing in my kitchen having made terrible coffee, telling you that I know I failed you. I know I chose wrong every time. I know I can't undo any of it. But I'm here, and I'm trying to learn. Not expecting anything from you, just learning. Marcus was quiet for so long, Victoria thought he'd hung up. Then, the key to espresso is the grind. Too fine, and it's bitter. Too coarse, and it's sour. You need to find the middle ground. How do you find it? Practice. Lots of terrible shots until you get one right. Then you remember that feeling, that exact moment when everything balances. That sounds like more than coffee. Yeah, well, coffee's like that. Teaches you things. Another pause. I have to go. Morning rush is starting. Marcus, thank you for answering, for the advice. Don't read too much into it. I just can't stand the thought of anyone drinking bad coffee, even you. He hung up, but Victoria smiled. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even a beginning. But it was contact. A tiny crack in the wall between them. She looked up his coffee shop online. Marcus's Grind, North End, Boston. The photos showed a small space, warm lighting, exposed brick. The reviews were stellar, people raved about the coffee, but more about the atmosphere, the owner who remembered everyone's name, who asked about their lives. Her son had built something real, something that mattered to people. Without her. Maybe because without her. Victoria dressed carefully, not in her usual armor of designer suits, but in jeans she had to dig from the back of her closet, and a simple sweater. She looked at herself in the mirror and hardly recognized the woman staring back. She looked normal. Approachable. Human. The drive to the North End took 20 minutes. She parked 3 blocks away, needing the walk to steady her nerves. The neighborhood was alive with Saturday morning energy families heading to the park. Couples walking dogs, the smell of bread from Italian bakeries mixing with coffee from the numerous cafes. Marcus's Grind sat on a corner, its windows fogged with warmth. Victoria stood across the street watching through the glass. There he was. Her son. He moved behind the counter with practiced grace, pulling shots, steaming milk, laughing with customers. He looked happy, content, complete without her. She stood there for an hour, frozen with indecision. People flowed in and out of the shop, everyone greeted by name, everyone leaving with smiles. Marcus had created something she never could: genuine human connection. You planning to stand there all day? Victoria jumped. An elderly woman stood beside her, tiny and fierce-looking, wearing an apron from the bakery next door. You're his mother. It wasn't a question. He has your eyes. Will you going in or not? He doesn't want me there. The woman snorted. You know what he wants. He's been checking that door every 5 minutes for the past hour. Someone called him this morning, got him all stirred up. That you... Victoria nodded. Then get in there. That boy's been waiting for his mother to show up for years, just didn't know how to ask. You don't understand, I was terrible. Honey, I'm Italian. You think we don't know from terrible mothers? My mama used to hit me with a wooden spoon and call it love, but she showed up every day, even when I hated her for it. That's what mothers do. They show up. Before Victoria could respond, the woman was pushing her toward the door. Go, order something, sit down. Exist in his space, that's all. Just exist where he can see you. Victoria's legs moved without her permission. The door chimed as she entered, and the warmth hit her, not just physical, but emotional. The space felt loved, lived in, the opposite of every space she inhabited. Marcus looked up from the espresso machine. Their eyes met. His hands stilled. The shop seemed to hold its breath. Customers sensed something, conversations faltering. Victoria stood in the doorway, neither in nor out, waiting for judgment. Next in line, Marcus's voice was steady, professional. Not warm, but not cold. Victoria approached the counter on unsteady legs. Up close, she could see Sarah in him, not his actual mother, but the influence of watching Daniel's wife from afar all those years. The kindness around his eyes, the patience in his posture. He'd learned to be good from people who weren't her. "What can I get you?" he asked. "Coffee. Just coffee." "Size? Whatever you recommend." He turned to the machine, his movements sharp, efficient. She watched his hands. Her father's hands, she realized suddenly. Her father who'd died when Marcus was 3, who'd been a carpenter, who'd built things that lasted. Somehow, that skill had skipped her and landed in her son. "For here or to go?" Marcus asked. "Here, if that's okay." He nodded, pulling a ceramic mug from beneath the counter. She watched him work, noting the care he took, the precision. This wasn't just coffee to him. It was craft, art, love. He set the mug in front of her. The foam on top formed a perfect rosetta. "That'll be $3.50. She handed him a 20. "Keep the change." "We don't accept tips over 15%. He made change, pushing it across the counter. "Table by the window is free." Victoria took her dismissal and her coffee to the indicated table. She sat warming her hands on the mug, watching him return to his routine. But she caught him glancing her way, quick checks to see if she was still there. The coffee was perfect. Complex balance, nothing like her morning attempts. She thought of his words about finding the middle ground and wondered if they were both trying to find it now in this careful dance of presence without pressure. An hour passed. She nursed her coffee, watched the rhythm of the shop. Marcus knew everyone. The construction worker got his usual with an extra shot. The young mother got her decaf with real sympathy for her exhaustion. The elderly man got his coffee and a chess partner for 20 minutes when the rush died. This was what she'd missed. Not just Marcus's childhood, but his evolution into this person who created community wherever he went. She'd been so focused on teaching him to conquer, she'd missed him learning to connect. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel. How's the coffee?" She smiled, typing back, "Perfect. Sitting in his shop. He hasn't thrown me out yet." "That's a win. Lily wants to know if you still have Stanley." Victoria reached into her purse, touching the plastic dinosaur she'd impulsively brought. "Tell her Stanley is being very brave." "She says that's good. Brave is just scared with its walking shoes on." Victoria laughed softly, earning another glance from Marcus. Their eyes met across the shop, and something in his face softened slightly. A younger woman emerged from the back room tying an apron, pretty with wild curly hair and paint under her fingernails. She kissed Marcus's cheek casually, intimately, and Victoria realized this must be Emma, the girlfriend she'd heard about, but never met. Emma noticed her staring, said something to Marcus. His response made her look over with curiosity. She walked to Victoria's table without hesitation. "You're his mom." Again, not a question. "Yes." Emma sat without invitation. "He's been a mess all morning. Good mess or bad mess, I can't tell. You being here, is this a good thing?" "I don't know," Victoria admitted. "I'm trying to learn." "Learn what?" "How to be a mother instead of a CEO." Emma studied her with artist's eyes, seeing everything. "He has your bone structure, your hands, but his heart that came from somewhere else. His grandfather, maybe. My father. He built things with his hands. Marcus has that gift." "He builds more than coffee," Emma said. "He builds homes for people who don't have anywhere else. This place, half these customers come because Marcus makes them feel seen, valued, human." "I never taught him that." "No," Emma agreed. "But maybe you taught him what happens without it. Sometimes we learn by opposite example." Victoria felt the truth of that hit deep. "Do you hate me for what I did to him?" "I hate that he checks his phone every Mother's Day hoping you'll call. I hate that he keeps a picture of you both in his wallet from when he was 7. I hate that he still sometimes starts to call you when something good happens, then remembers you won't care unless it's about money." Each word was a knife, but Victoria took them, deserved them. "But," Emma continued, "I also see him looking at you now, trying to decide if he can risk hoping, And for that, for showing up when he thought you never would, I'm grateful. I don't know how to fix 20 years of damage. You don't fix it. You just start building something new next to it. Like this shop. It's built on an old foundation from a place that burned down. You can still see scorch marks on some of the basement stones. But Marcus didn't try to erase them. He built around them with them. Made them part of something better. Emma stood. Stay as long as you want. He needs to see you can exist in his world without trying to change it. She returned to Marcus, who whispered urgently to her. Emma whispered back their body language, an entire conversation Victoria couldn't read. Finally, Marcus nodded, kissed Emma's forehead, and went back to work. The morning turned to afternoon. Customers came and went. Victoria ordered a second coffee, then a third, each one delivered by Marcus without comment. She didn't try to talk to him, didn't push. She just existed in his space, learning its rhythms, its language. Around 2 o'clock, a familiar truck pulled up outside. Daniel emerged, Lily bouncing beside him in a tutu and rain boots. They entered the shop, and Lily immediately spotted Victoria. You're here with Stanley. She ran over, throwing her arms around Victoria without hesitation. Daddy said you were being brave today. Marcus watched this interaction with confusion. This child clearly knew his mother, loved his mother. But how Daniel approached the counter. You must be Marcus. I'm Daniel. Your mom told me you make the best coffee in Boston. You know my mother? Met her yesterday. She helped my daughter through a tough moment. The lie came smooth, protective. Lily's been talking about her all day. Lily had climbed into Victoria's lap, chattering about dinosaurs and ballet class, and how Mrs. Henderson's cat had kittens. Victoria held her carefully like precious glass, aware of Marcus watching. Are you the coffee prince? Lily asked Marcus directly. Your mom said you make magic coffee. She said that, she said you make coffee for people, but all coffee is magic because it makes grown-ups less grumpy. So you must be a coffee prince. Do you have a crown? Despite himself, Marcus smiled. No crown, but I have chocolate chip cookies. Want one? Yes, please, Daddy, can I? Daniel nodded, and Marcus brought over a cookie the size of Lily's head. She bit into it with enthusiasm, getting chocolate everywhere. This, she announced, is the best cookie in the whole world. Victoria, you should learn to make these too. I think I'll master coffee first, Victoria said softly. Marcus returned to the counter, but his posture had changed. Seeing his mother with this child, seeing her gentle and present and trying it was shifting something. Daniel ordered coffee, sitting at an adjacent table to give Victoria and Lily space, but staying close enough to be part of whatever this was becoming. Why are you really here? Marcus asked, suddenly approaching their table. With them. In my shop. Why now? Victoria looked up at her son, this man she'd created but not raised. Because yesterday I crashed my car into a tree, and this man pulled me out of the wreckage. Not just the car, all of it. And his daughter told me I was sad because I lived in a castle alone with no one to read me stories. That's the saddest thing, Lily confirmed solemnly. And I realized she was right. I've been alone in my castle for 20 years, Marcus. Even when you were there, I was alone because I forgot how to speak any language but money and power. So I'm trying to learn new languages, coffee, cookies, whatever you'll teach me. Marcus looked at Daniel. You pulled her from a wreck. She pulled herself out. I just offered a hand. And you're here because Lily wanted to see her again, and because sometimes people need witnesses when they're being brave. Marcus sat down, really looking at his mother for the first time. Not the CEO, not the stranger who'd missed everything, just a woman holding a child trying to learn. You really want to learn about coffee? He asked. I want to learn about you, Victoria said. Coffee just seems like a good starting point. It took me 10 years to get good at this. Then I'd better start now. Marcus was quiet, processing. Emma watched from behind the counter, ready to intervene if needed. But something was happening in the space between mother and son, fragile as foam art, but forming nonetheless. Tuesday mornings, Marcus said finally. Shops closed until noon. If you want to learn, really learn, not just play at it, you come Tuesday mornings, 5 a.m. 5 a.m. That's when the real work happens. Cleaning machines, checking inventory, tasting new blends, the stuff that makes the rest possible. You want to learn coffee, you learn all of it. Okay, 5 a.m. Tuesday. Every Tuesday. Not just when you feel like it. Not just until you get bored. Every Tuesday until I say, you're done. Every Tuesday, Victoria agreed. Marcus stood to return to work, then paused. That crash. Were you trying to... No, Victoria said quickly. No, I was just driving too fast, not paying attention. I was upset about us, about everything I'd broken. But no Marcus. I wouldn't do that to you. He nodded, relief visible in his shoulders. Good. Because despite everything that would break me completely. He went back behind the counter, and Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. He still cared. Despite everything, he still cared enough to be broken by her loss. He's nice, Lily announced. Sad like you and Daddy, but nice. Are you going to be friends now? I hope so, Victoria said. It might take time. That's okay. The best things take time, like growing sunflowers, or learning to read, or making Daddy smile again after Mommy went to heaven. Daniel reached over, squeezing Lily's hand. What did we say about talking about heavy stuff with new friends? But Victoria's not new. She's Stanley's friend, and Stanley's been with us forever. The logic of children. Victoria found herself laughing, real and surprised, and caught Marcus smiling slightly as he steamed milk. They stayed another hour. Lily colored with crayons Emma produced, creating elaborate dinosaur coffee shops. Daniel and Victoria talked quietly about nothing important: construction projects, Lily's school, the weather. Normal conversation between normal people, except one of them was worth billions, and the other had saved her from herself. When they finally left, Marcus walked them to the door. Tuesday, he said to Victoria. 5 a.m. Don't be late. I won't be. He looked at Daniel, extended his hand. Thank you. For whatever you did yesterday. For bringing her back. Daniel shook his hand. She brought herself back. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us which direction to walk. Outside, Lily danced ahead to the truck, splashing in puddles. Victoria stood on the sidewalk, looking back at the shop where Marcus stood in the window, watching. Progress, Daniel said. Baby steps. Victoria agreed. But steps nonetheless. Want to follow us back? Lily's demanding I make my famous terrible spaghetti, and apparently you need to be there to witness it. Victoria looked at this man who'd appeared in her life less than 24 hours ago and changed everything. Why are you doing this, really? Daniel considered the question. Because I know what it's like to lose everything that matters. And I know what it's like to rebuild from scorched earth. And because Lily's right, the sad stuff is less sad when you share it with people who understand. Is that what we are, people who understand? I think maybe we could be, if you want. Victoria thought of her empty houses, her perfect loneliness, the silence that had driven her into the woods. Then she looked at Lily, spinning in circles, arms spread wide to catch rain that had started to fall. I'd like that, she said. I'd like that very much. The drive to Millbrook felt different this time. Following Daniel's truck, watching Lily's hands make shapes against the back window, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Belonging. Not to a place or a position, but to a moment, a possibility, a small family that was teaching her how to be human again. Her phone rang. Her lawyer. She declined the call. Then her head of acquisitions. Declined. The entire machinery of her empire trying to pull her back, and for once, she resisted. Another call. Marcus. You forgot your change, he said. From the 20. Keep it. I told you we don't. Then put it towards someone's coffee, someone who looks like they need kindness. Silence. Then, that woman, with the kid, is that something? Victoria understood what he was asking. Was she replacing him? Finding the family she wanted instead of the one she'd failed? No, she said firmly. That's a man who lost his wife and is raising his daughter alone and somehow still believes in kindness. And that little girl is pure magic who sees through everyone's walls. They're teaching me things I should have known all along. But they're not replacements, Marcus. No one could replace you. No one. Okay. Is it okay? I mean, I don't know yet. But Tuesday. We'll see on Tuesday. He hung up and Victoria smiled. Tuesday. She'd never looked forward to 5 a.m. before, but now it felt like Christmas morning promised. At Daniel's house, Lily immediately dragged Victoria to the kitchen to watch the spaghetti disaster unfold. Daniel wasn't kidding, he was a terrible cook. The pasta was somehow both overcooked and crunchy. The sauce was from a jar but still managed to burn. The garlic bread was charcoal on one side, raw on the other. "It's perfect," Lily announced, twirling mushy noodles. "Perfect, terrible spaghetti." They ate at the small kitchen table, Lily chattering about school, about Mrs. Henderson's cats, about everything and nothing. Victoria found herself really listening, not the half attention she'd given Marcus's childhood stories, but real presence. She heard about the mean girl at school who said Lily's dinosaur obsession was weird, about the teacher who let her read advanced books, about the dream where Mommy came back, but only Lily could see her. "That must have been hard," Victoria said. "The dream." "It was nice and sad at the same time. Daddy says that's okay to feel both things, that missing someone means you loved them, and love is never wrong even when it hurts." Daniel cleaned dishes, humming something tunelessly. Victoria recognized the habit Sarah's absence filled by his own sounds. She wondered what sounds Marcus made in his apartment, if he still drummed, if he filled his silence or let it swallow him. "Will you read me a story?" Lily asked as bedtime approached. A real one from a book, not a making-up one. They settled on the couch, Lily between Victoria and Daniel, as she read from a book about a brave mouse with a very small sword. Lily leaned against her, completely trusting, and Victoria felt her heart restructure itself around this moment. "You do voices," Lily said sleepily. "Different ones for each character. Mommy did that too." "Did she?" "Mm-hmm. Daddy tries, but he makes everyone sound like construction workers." "Hey," Daniel protested mildly. "My mouse voice is very sophisticated." "Your mouse sounds like he builds houses," Lily countered, giggling. By the time the story ended, Lily was asleep against Victoria's shoulder. Daniel carried her to bed, and Victoria found herself alone in this living room that felt more like home than anywhere she'd lived in 20 years. She studied the photographs again. Sarah at various ages, always smiling. Daniel and Sarah's wedding, a small affair in someone's backyard, everyone laughing. Baby Lily toddler. Lily missing front teeth, a whole life documented in drugstore prints and crooked frames. Her own walls held art worth millions, but nothing worth remembering. Daniel returned bringing tea. "She goes down easier when you're here. Usually takes 3 stories and a negotiation about tomorrow's breakfast. She's extraordinary. She's everything." He sat beside her, not too close, but close enough. "How are you feeling about today?" "About Marcus." "Terrified," Victoria admitted, "but also hopeful. He didn't throw me out. He offered to teach me. That's more than I had yesterday. Yesterday you were trying to become one with a tree. Yesterday I was lost. And today," Victoria considered, "today I'm still lost, but at least I know it, and I have people willing to help me find my way." They sat quietly drinking tea, existing in the comfortable silence of 2 people who understood grief's geography. Outside, rain continued, gentle now, watering gardens and washing streets clean. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "About Sarah." "Sure." "Do you think she would have liked me?" Daniel smiled. "Sarah liked everyone, but especially broken people trying to get better. She collected them like stray cats. Would have taken one look at you and decided you needed feeding and fixing. I could have used that 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have let her. You had to crash first, hit the tree literally and figuratively. Sometimes that's the only way we stop long enough to change direction." Victoria's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Bring work clothes Tuesday. You're going to get dirty." She showed Daniel, who laughed. "He's going to make you clean the machines." That's his test for new employees. They can handle the gross parts, the milk residue, the grounds, the endless cleaning. They can handle coffee. Did everyone pass? Emma threw up the first time, but she came back. He married her 6 months later, well, not officially, but in every way that matters. He's happy with her. He's himself with her. That's better than happy. Victoria thought about all the relationships she'd had where she'd been anything but herself. The marriage to Marcus's father, a business arrangement that produced a child but never love. The affairs with men who wanted her power or money but never knew her name was actually Vivian, that Victoria was just easier to brand. "I don't know who myself is anymore," she admitted. "Sure you do. You were her today. With Lily. With Marcus. With me. No CEO, no billions, just Victoria learning to make terrible coffee and read mouse stories. That simple, that complicated. Being yourself is the hardest thing when you've spent decades being everyone else's expectation." The rain stopped. Evening settled soft around the house. Lily called out once in her sleep, and Daniel went to check, returning with a report that she was discussing dinosaur habitats with her stuffed animals. "I should go," Victoria said, though she didn't move. "You could stay. Couch is comfortable. Breakfast is terrible, but enthusiastic. I have 5 empty houses waiting. That's not the same as having somewhere to go." He was right, but Victoria stood anyway. Some things couldn't be rushed. She'd pushed too hard, too fast with Marcus all those years. She wouldn't make that mistake with this fragile new thing growing between her and Daniel. "Thank you," she said at the door. "For yesterday, today, all of it. Tuesday after Marcus puts you through coffee boot camp, come for dinner. Lily's making pizza. It'll be an adventure." "I'd like that." She drove home through quiet streets, thinking about the day. Marcus hadn't forgiven her, but he'd offered her Tuesday mornings. Daniel hadn't asked her to be anything but herself. Lily had fallen asleep on her shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. Small victories, tiny steps, but movement nonetheless. At home, she stood in Marcus's untouched room again, but this time she didn't just look. She sat at his desk, opened his laptop dead for years, and found his old journal in the drawer. She shouldn't read it, knew it was a violation, but she needed to understand who he'd been when she wasn't looking. The entries were sparse, mostly about music girls' school frustrations. But one dated just after his 16th birthday stopped her cold. "Mom missed another concert. Dad didn't even pretend he'd come. Emma was there, though. Emma's always there. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to have parents who showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because seeing me play drums was more important than another meeting, another deal, another anything. I used to think if I was better achieved more, they'd want to be there. Now I know it doesn't matter how good I am. I'm just not speaking their language, and they're not interested in learning mine." Victoria closed the journal, tears streaming. He'd known even then. Known she was choosing everything else over him, and he'd stopped trying to change it, just accepted it as fact. Her phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello." "Victoria." "It's Emma. Marcus doesn't know I'm calling. Is everything okay?" He's been sitting in the shop for an hour just staring at the espresso machine. He does this sometimes when he's processing big things, but this is different. You really showed up today." "I did." "He didn't think you would. Even after the call this morning, he was sure you'd change your mind. But you sat there for hours just existing in his space. Do you understand what that means to him? Tell me." Every important person in his life has only ever wanted him to exist in their space on their terms. Even his father especially. His father only saw him as an extension of expectations. But you sat in his world today without trying to change it, or own it, or improve it. You just were. It wasn't enough. It can never be enough to fix. "Stop trying to fix," Emma interrupted. "Stop thinking in terms of repair and debt and balance sheets. Just show up. Tuesday and every Tuesday after. That's all. That's everything." After the call, Victoria sat in her perfect empty house, surrounded by the silence Daniel had described. But for the first time, she didn't try to fill it with work or worry. She just let it be, let herself feel the weight of 20 years of wrong choices. Then she did something she hadn't done in decades. She went to the kitchen, her barely used professionally designed kitchen, and tried to cook. Nothing elaborate, just eggs the way she remembered her father making them when her mother worked late. They were terrible runny and somehow burnt, but she ate them anyway, thinking of Daniel's bad spaghetti and Lily's declaration that terrible food made with love was better than perfect food made by strangers. At midnight, she texted Daniel, "Thank you for saving me yesterday." His response came quickly, "You saved yourself. I just reminded you it was possible." Then a second text, "Lily wants you to know Stanley spent the day being brave on your behalf. She's very proud of both of you." Victoria held the plastic dinosaur, this cheap toy that had become a talisman, and thought about bravery. How it wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Tuesday morning felt both too far away and too close. 5 a.m. with Marcus learning coffee from the ground up. Then dinner with Daniel and Lily, learning family from the heart out. She'd spent 60 years building an empire. Maybe the next 60 or whatever she had left could be about building something else. Something smaller, but infinitely more valuable. Connection, presence, love that showed up even when it didn't know what to say. The rain started again, gentle against the windows. Victoria listened to it, finding rhythm in the sound, music, and what she'd always dismissed as weather. Everything was teaching her something now: rain about patience, silence about space, a plastic dinosaur about courage. Tuesday would come. And Tuesday after that, and however many Tuesdays it took for Marcus to believe she was really there, really trying, really learning to speak his language instead of demanding he speak hers. It would have to be enough. Because as Daniel had taught her, sometimes enough was everything. Tuesday arrived in darkness, the kind that made Victoria question every decision that had brought her to this moment. 4:30 a.m., and she was already dressed in the work clothes she'd had to buy: jeans that actually fit a t-shirt that wouldn't matter if it got stained, sneakers instead of heels. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she didn't recognize, someone who might have existed if different choices had been made 20 years ago. The drive to Marcus's shop felt like approaching a final exam she hadn't studied for. Every traffic light seemed to ask if she really wanted to do this. Every turn offered an opportunity to go back to her empty house, her empty life, her familiar emptiness. But she kept driving Stanley the Stegosaurus on her dashboard like a plastic guardian angel, reminding her that Brave was just scared with its walking shoes on. Marcus was already there when she arrived, the shop dark except for the back room where light spilled out like a secret. She knocked on the glass door, her heart hammering so hard she wondered if he could hear it. He let her in without a word, just nodded toward the back. The shop smelled different at this hour. Less coffee, more possibility. The chairs were all stacked on tables, the floor still damp from last night's mopping, everything waiting to become what it would be when the world woke up. First lesson, Marcus said, leading her to a massive espresso machine that looked like something from a spacecraft. This is Lucia. She's temperamental, demanding, and will absolutely humble you if you don't respect her. You named your espresso machine. Emma named her. Said any machine that complex and essential deserved a name. She's not wrong. He opened a panel revealing an intricate system of tubes and gauges. Every morning she needs to be completely cleaned. Milk residue becomes cement if you leave it. Coffee oils go rancid. The steam wands get clogged. It's gross, tedious work that no one sees but everyone tastes if you skip it. He handed her a bucket of supplies, brushes, cloths, cleaning solution that smelled sharp and chemical. Start with the steam wands. They come apart like this. He demonstrated his hands moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 mornings. Clean every piece. Then reassemble. Then do it again because you'll miss something the first time. Victoria took the pieces, metal still warm from yesterday's use, and began. The work was harder than it looked, tiny spaces that trapped milk threading, that had to align perfectly, her unpracticed fingers clumsy where his were sure. Marcus didn't help, just watched, correcting her grip, her angle, her pressure. Too gentle, he said. You're not going to break it. Lucia's tougher than she looks. Like all of us, Victoria thought, but didn't say. She scrubbed harder, finding rhythm in the repetition, meditation in the mundane. This was what Marcus did every morning, what built the foundation for all that coffee and community. The invisible work that made the visible possible. Why 5 a.m.? She asked, wrestling with a particularly stubborn valve. Because that's when the work is honest. No customers to perform for, no distractions. Just you and the machine, and the promise you're making to everyone who'll walk through that door, that their coffee will be clean, safe, made with care, even in the parts they'll never see. You could hire someone to do this. I could. Sometimes I do. But I still come in and check their work, often redo it. Because ultimately, my name is on the door. My reputation is in every cup. And you can't outsource the things that matter most. The irony wasn't lost on Victoria. She'd outsourced everything that mattered most, including raising her son. I had nannies, she said quietly. For you. 3 different ones before you were 5. I remember Maria, Marcus said, his voice neutral. She taught me Spanish, made me tamales for my birthday when you forgot. I didn't forget. I was in Tokyo. Same thing to a 6-year-old. Victoria wanted to defend herself, explain about the merger that had defined her company's future, but she stopped. He was right. To a 6-year-old, to any child absence was absence regardless of the reason. They worked in silence for a while, Victoria cleaning Marcus, adjusting her technique. The machine slowly revealed itself, not just its physical components, but its personality, its demands, its rewards for proper attention. She began to understand why he'd named it, why it mattered, why this ritual of cleaning was about more than hygiene. Your father called last week, Marcus said suddenly. Victoria's hands stilled. Richard, he wants to invest in the shop, offered me enough to open 10 more locations, turn it into a chain. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. I wanted to see if you showing up was real first. And Marcus looked at her, really looked, taking in her stained clothes, her chapped hands, the earnestness she couldn't hide. You're here at 5 a.m. cleaning milk residue. That's real. But one morning doesn't mean anything. Consistency means something. Every Tuesday, Victoria reminded him. We'll see. By 6, the machine was clean, gleaming like new. Marcus showed her how to run water through it, testing the temperature, the pressure, making sure everything was calibrated correctly. Coffee is science, he said. Chemistry and physics and timing, but it's also art, knowing when to break the rules, when to trust your instincts over the manual. How do you learn that? Time, failure, attention, same way you learn anything that matters. He moved to the grinder, a massive thing that looked industrial and probably was. This is where most people mess up. They think the machine is what matters, but it's the grind. Too fine, and you're choking the water flow, making it bitter. Too coarse, and the water runs through too fast, making it sour. Every bean is different. Every humidity level changes things. You have to adjust constantly, taste constantly, pay attention constantly. He showed her how to calibrate the grinder, how to test shots, how to taste for the balance point he'd described on the phone. The first shot she pulled was horrible, bitter enough to strip paint. The second was worse, sour and thin. But the fifth had something, a hint of what it could be. Better, Marcus said, which felt like the highest praise she'd ever received. Emma arrived at 7, kissing Marcus good morning, hugging Victoria like they were old friends. You survived the cleaning. That's more than most. Did you really throw up? Everywhere. Emma laughed. Marcus was horrified, but I came back the next day with rubber gloves and a determination to prove I wasn't just some artist playing at coffee shop romance. She was terrible, said Marcus added, but with such affection it sounded like a compliment. Took her 6 months to pull a decent shot. But now I'm better than him, Emma said. You're different than me, Marcus corrected. Your coffee has joy in it. Mine has precision. His makes you think, Emma told Victoria. Mine makes you feel. Together we make people whole. They work together with the easy synchronization of people who'd learned each other's rhythms, dancing around the small space, without collision, communicating in half sentences and gestures. Victoria watched them, seeing what Marcus had built, not just a business, but a life, a partnership, a place where he could be fully himself. You know what you need? Emma said suddenly to Victoria. A coffee name. Everyone who works here gets one. Marcus is the professor, because he treats every shot like a thesis defense. I'm chaos, because I never make the same drink twice, even when I try. What would mine be? Emma and Marcus exchanged glances. Too early to tell, Marcus said. Names have to be earned. By 8, the shop was ready to open. Victoria had learned the cleaning ritual, the basics of grinding and pulling shots, the careful choreography of the morning setup. Her hands ached, her back hurt from hunching over the machine, and she'd never felt more accomplished. Same time next week? Marcus asked as she prepared to leave. Same time. And Victoria? He paused, seeming to wrestle with words. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because if you're going to be in my life, I need to know you understand what my life actually is. Not the idea of it, not the Facebook version, but the real thing. The early mornings and tired feet and small victories no one else sees. I understand, Victoria said. No, you don't. Not yet. But maybe you're starting to. She left as the first customers arrived, regulars who greeted Marcus by name, who asked about Emma's latest art project, who belonged to this small universe he'd created. On the drive home, Victoria thought about belonging, about earning your place through showing up, through doing the work no one saw. Her phone had 17 missed calls from various executives. She ignored them all, instead calling Daniel. "How'd it go?" he asked without preamble. "I smell like sour milk and my hands are raw from scrubbing." "So perfect." "Actually, yes, he's teaching me, Daniel. Really teaching me, not just tolerating me." "That's beautiful. You still coming for dinner?" "Fair warning, Lily's decided we're having a dance party after. Your attendance is mandatory. Wouldn't miss it." She went home, showered, tried to nap, but couldn't. Her mind kept replaying the morning, Marcus's hands guiding hers, the hiss of steam, the smell of fresh grounds, the way he'd said, "better," like it was a gift. She'd built billion-dollar deals that gave her less satisfaction than that single word. Her lawyer called. This time she answered. "Victoria, the Singapore deal needs your signature. We're losing millions every day you delay." "Then we lose millions," she said simply. "I don't understand what's happening. You've never walked away from a deal this big." "I'm not walking away. I'm standing still. There's a difference. The board is getting restless. There's talk of a vote of no confidence." Victoria thought about this, about the empire she'd built, the power she'd accumulated, the life she'd chosen over everything else. Let them vote. Victoria meant, "I have to go, Charles. I'm having dinner with friends." "Since when do you have friends?" The question should have stung, but it only made her smile. "Since recently. Since everything changed." She hung up, dressed in casual clothes that were starting to feel less like a costume, and drove to Daniel's house. Lily was in the front yard wearing a tutu rain boots and what appeared to be a cape made from a beach towel. "Victoria, we're making pizza, but first you have to see my new dance. It's about dinosaurs who learn to fly, but then remember they like walking better." The dance was elaborate, enthusiastic, and made absolutely no sense. Victoria applauded like it was the Royal Ballet. Inside, Daniel was covered in flour, the kitchen a disaster zone of bowls and ingredients. "Pizza's harder than it looks," he said by way of greeting. "The dough is fighting back." "Show me," Victoria said, rolling up her sleeves. "You know how to make pizza." "No, but I'm learning that not knowing is where everything interesting starts." They worked together, Lily directing operations with the confidence of someone who'd never failed at anything because she didn't know failure was an option. The dough was too sticky, then too dry, then somehow both. The sauce was more like soup. The cheese distribution looked like a topographic map of chaos. "It's perfect," Lily declared when they put it in the oven. "It's a disaster," Daniel corrected. "It's perfectly disastrous," Victoria offered, and Lily decided this was the best description. While it cooked or burned, they weren't quite sure which. Lily pulled out her mother's photo albums. "Daddy said you might want to see these. This is Mommy when she was young, before she met Daddy and had me and got sick." Sarah in college, laughing at something off camera. Sarah teaching, surrounded by kindergartners. Sarah on her wedding day, radiant in a simple dress, looking at Daniel like he was everything. "She was beautiful," Victoria said. "She was more than that," Daniel said softly. "She was good. Actually genuinely good. Made everyone around her want to be better." "Did you become better?" "I tried, still trying. Some days I think I'm getting there. Then I burn pizza and yell at traffic and forget to sign permission slips." "But you show up," Victoria said. "That's what matters." Speaking of showing up, he pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. It was her from this morning through the coffee shop window, cleaning the espresso machine with absolute concentration. "Marcus sent this to Emma. Emma sent it to me. Look at your face." Victoria studied the image. She looked tired, focused, present in a way she couldn't remember being. No phone in sight, no distraction, just her hands and the work and the moment. "I look happy," she said, surprised. "You look like yourself," Daniel corrected. The pizza was indeed a disaster, burnt on the edges, raw in the middle, cheese slid off into a pile on one side. They ate it anyway. Lily declaring each bite an adventure, Daniel and Victoria sharing glances over her head, a whole conversation in looks about resilience and making do and finding joy in imperfection. After dinner came the promised dance party. Lily DJ'd from Daniel's phone, playing everything from Disney songs to what she called Daddy's Sad Man music, which turned out to be Leonard Cohen. Victoria hadn't danced in decades, not since Marcus was small, and she'd sometimes spin him around the kitchen before the nannies arrived. But Lily wouldn't accept no for an answer, pulling her into elaborate routines that involved a lot of jumping and dinosaur arms. "This is how T-Rexes would dance," Lily explained seriously. "With very small movements because of their tiny arms, but very big feelings because of their huge hearts." Daniel watched from the doorway, smiling at Victoria's attempts to follow Lily's increasingly complex choreography. "You're good with her," he said during a water break. "She makes it easy. She just assumes everyone wants to dance like dinosaurs. No room for self-consciousness when someone believes in you that completely." "Marcus believed in you that completely once." Victoria's chest tightened. "I know. That's what makes it worse. I had that faith, and I wasted it on conference calls and spreadsheets. But you're here now. 20 years too late. 20 years exactly on time," Daniel countered. "Any earlier and you wouldn't have been ready. You needed to crash into that tree. You needed to lose everything to understand what everything actually was." Lily returned, pulling them both into a final dance, something slow and swaying that she'd learned in ballet class. The three of them moved together in the small living room, Lily standing on Daniel's feet, her hand in Victoria's, and for a moment Victoria felt what family could be. Not perfect, not replacing what was lost, but something new growing in the scorched earth. "I wish Mommy could see us," Lily said sleepily. "Maybe she can," Daniel said. "I hope so. I think she'd like Victoria. She liked sad people who were trying to be happy again." Victoria stayed for bedtime stories, reading 2 books about brave mice and one about a dinosaur who opened a bakery. Lily fell asleep holding her hand, and Victoria sat there long after, not wanting to break the connection. "She trusts so easily," Victoria whispered to Daniel in the hallway. "She hasn't learned not to yet. I hope she never does. The world will teach her eventually. Maybe. Or maybe she'll teach the world that trust is worth the risk." They returned to the living room, the evening settling around them like a comfortable blanket. Victoria thought about her empty houses, about the silence that had driven her to dangerous speeds on dark roads. "I don't want to go home," she admitted. "Then don't. Couch is still comfortable. Morning still terrible but enthusiastic. I can't just... Why not?" "Who's waiting for you?" "What urgent thing needs your attention at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday?" He was right. There was nothing. No one, just empty rooms and expensive silence. "I need to tell you something," Daniel said suddenly, "about finding you in the woods. I wasn't just randomly hiking. I go there when the grief gets too heavy. When I start thinking about joining Sarah instead of just missing her." Victoria's breath caught. "Daniel, I'm not going to. Lily needs me. But sometimes the thought is there, like an escape hatch. I know I'll never use, but need to know exists. And finding you there crashed and crying, it was like the universe saying, 'See, this is where that leads,' to someone else finding you broken in the woods trying to explain to your kid why you chose to leave. Is that why you helped me?" "Partly, but also because you looked exactly how I felt 3 years ago. Lost and angry and so tired of being strong. And I remembered how Sarah's friend June found me one night drunk in my garage contemplating my options. She didn't judge, didn't panic, just sat with me until the sun came up. Then she made me promise to call her before I did anything permanent. I've called her 17 times in 3 years. Never followed through, obviously, but knowing I could call that someone would answer, 'You want me to be that for you?' I want us to be that for each other, because you were driving too fast on that curve for a reason, and it wasn't just to see Marcus. You were running from or toward something final." Victoria couldn't deny it. The silence was so loud. 20 years of choosing wrong, and the silence was my reward. All those houses, all that money, and nowhere that felt like home. And now... She looked around the lived-in room, toys, scattered photos everywhere, the lingering smell of burnt pizza. Now I'm learning that home isn't a place you buy. It's a place you build one Tuesday morning, one dinosaur dance, one burnt pizza at a time. Daniel's phone buzzed. Emma texting, Marco just spent an hour looking at the photos I sent of Victoria cleaning Lucia. He's smiling, actual smiling. Whatever magic you're working, keep it up. He showed Victoria, who felt tears threaten. He's smiling. Apparently so, that's something. It's everything. They talked until midnight about Sarah, about Marcus, about the strange way life breaks you and rebuilds you in configurations you never expected. Victoria told him about the journal entries she'd found Marcus at 16, already knowing she'd chosen everything else over him. Daniel told her about finding Sarah's goodbye letters, one for every year of Lily's life, until 18 instructions and love for a future she wouldn't see. Have you read them all? Just the first 3. The rest are sealed waiting. Every birthday, Lily gets another piece of her mom. It's beautiful and heartbreaking, and I don't know what I'll do when we run out. You'll tell her your own stories, the ones Sarah didn't know yet, the ones you're writing now. Daniel looked at her with something soft and surprised in his eyes. When did you become wise? Tuesday around 5:30 a.m. covered in milk residue. They laughed quiet enough not to wake Lily, but real enough to push back the dark for a while. Victoria did sleep on the couch, wrapped in the same princess blanket from that first night. She woke to Lily's face inches from hers, studying her with scientific intensity. You stayed, Lily whispered. I did. That's what family does. They stay. And there it was, simple as breathing. Family wasn't blood or law or obligation. It was choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. Breakfast was chaos, Daniel burning eggs. Lily insisting on adding chocolate chips to everything, Victoria trying to make coffee with their ancient machine and failing spectacularly. But it was also laughter and belonging and the opposite of silence. Will you come back tonight? Lily asked through a mouthful of chocolate chip scrambled eggs. She has her own life monster, Daniel said gently. But her life is sad. Our life has chocolate eggs. Obviously ours is better. Victoria hugged the girl, this miracle of resilience and wisdom. How about I come back Thursday and Saturday, and whenever you'll have me? Forever then, Lily said simply. We'll have you forever. Driving home, Victoria thought about forever. Such a big word from such a small person. But maybe that's what was happening here. Not a replacement for what she'd lost with Marcus, but a new foundation for whatever came next. A place to practice being human being, present being the person she should have been all along. Her phone rang. Marcus. Emma says you stayed at their place. Daniel and Lily's, yes. Is this some kind of thing? It's a friendship, with people who understand loss and are teaching me about finding things again. And that's all? Victoria considered lying, making it simpler, but she'd done enough of that. I don't know what it is or what it might become, but I know that little girl makes me remember joy exists, and her father makes me believe I might deserve some of it. Is that okay? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You know what? Yeah, it is. You've been alone in those houses for so long. Maybe having people, any people, is good. Tuesday's still happening. 5 a.m. Don't be late. We're working on milk steaming. It's harder than it looks. Everything important is. Yeah, Marcus said softly. It really is. After he hung up, Victoria sat in her empty house, but it felt different now. Less like a prison, more like potential. She could fill it with noise, music, laughter, the chaos of people who mattered. Or she could sell it, all of them, find something smaller, warmer, closer to Daniel and Marcus and the life she was trying to build. Her board was meeting today, possibly to vote her out. She should care, should be fighting, strategizing, protecting what she'd built. But all she could think about was Lily's dinosaur dances and Marcus's small smile and Daniel's steady presence. Her phone buzzed. A photo from Emma Marcus teaching a young customer how to steam milk, patient and engaged and present. He learned that from watching you this morning. Emma's text read, how to teach by showing, not telling. How to be patient with beginners. You're already changing things. Victoria held the phone, staring at her son being the teacher she'd never been, and felt something shift inside her chest. Not healing exactly, but the possibility of it. The first green shoots after a forest fire, small but stubborn, reaching for light. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Neither could Saturday or next Tuesday or all the days after that. She had a life to rebuild, relationships to earn, a family or something like it to become worthy of. It would take more time than she probably had left, but that was okay. Some things were worth doing badly, worth doing, late worth doing, even if you never got them quite right. Love was one of those things. Showing up was another. And Victoria, for the first time in 20 years, was ready to show up for all of it. Thursday came with unexpected snow, the kind that makes New England look like a snow globe. Someone shook too hard. Victoria stood at Daniel's door holding a grocery bag, her hair dusted white, wondering when she'd become someone who showed up unannounced with ingredients for soup. "You look like a snow queen," Lily announced, pulling her inside, "but a nice one who brings food instead of eternal winter." "The grocery store was packed," Victoria said, setting down the bags. "Apparently snow makes everyone need milk and bread. I brought soup ingredients instead. Thought we could make something warm." Daniel appeared from the kitchen, paint in his hair. "I was trying to fix the cabinet door. It's not going well." "Daddy's not good at fixing things," Lily stage whispered. "Mommy used to do that. She could fix anything except being sick." The casual way children could devastate you with truth. Daniel's face did something complicated, but before Victoria could respond, Lily was pulling her toward the kitchen. "Show me the soup magic." Victoria had to admit there was no magic, just a recipe she'd found online at 2 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come, when her empty house felt too large and her mistakes too heavy. But Lily treated each step like alchemy. Chopping vegetables became a ceremony, stirring the pot, a sacred ritual. "My mom never cooked," Victoria said, watching Lily concentrate on cutting carrots with a butter knife. "She had staff for that. I didn't learn until this week, really." "But you're learning now," Daniel said, working on the cabinet with tools that seemed to confuse him. "That's what matters." Can you really make up for 60 years of not knowing basic things?" "Mommy said it's never too late to become who you're supposed to be," Lily offered, dumping her carefully cut carrots into the pot. She said that to Daddy when he wanted to go back to school, but thought he was too old. "Did you go?" Victoria asked Daniel. "Started. Engineering degree part-time. Then Sarah got sick and..." He shrugged. "Priorities shifted." "You could still go." "Maybe. Someday. Right now, keeping us afloat is enough." Victoria wanted to offer to pay for it, to fix this problem with money, like she'd tried to fix everything else, but she'd learned that lesson. Instead, she said, "I could watch Lily if you wanted to take classes, evenings or weekends or whenever." Daniel looked up from his losing battle with the cabinet. "You do that? I need to learn how to be around kids anyway. If Marcus ever..." She stopped, unable to finish the thought about grandchildren she'd probably never meet. "He'll come around," Daniel said. Tuesday was a start. "He taught me to steam milk. I was terrible. He was patient. It was the best morning I've had in years." Lily climbed onto a stool to stir the soup, requiring both hands and her full tongue-out concentration. "You know what? You need a nickname. Everyone in our family has one. I'm Monster Daddy's bear. Mommy called him that, and Mommy was Sunshine even when she was sick." "What would mine be?" Lily studied her seriously. "Storm, because you came to us in one and you have silver hair like lightning, and because storms seem scary but they make things grow." "Storm," Victoria repeated, feeling the word settle on her like a benediction. "I like it." The soup simmered, filling the house with warmth and the smell of home. Daniel finally admitted defeat with the cabinet, and Victoria surprised herself by taking the screwdriver from him. "My father taught me," she said, examining the broken hinge, "before he decided I should focus on girl things. But I remember." Her hands knew the motion, the pressure, the angle. Within minutes, the door hung straight. Daniel stared at her like she'd performed magic. A billionaire CEO who can fix cabinets. A human who remembers her father's hands guiding hers, teaching her something real before the world convinced her real wasn't enough. They ate soup while snow continued falling. Lily telling elaborate stories about her day at school, about the boy who ate paste, about the teacher who cried during story time because the book reminded her of her dead dog. "Did you comfort her?" Victoria asked. "I gave her my dinosaur eraser. It helps with sad." "That was kind." Mommy said kindness is the only thing that multiplies when you divide it. These pearls of wisdom from a dead woman preserved in her daughter, like flowers pressed in books. Victoria wondered what wisdom Marcus had preserved from her, then realized with a sick feeling that she'd never given him any. Just lectures about market shares and networking and climbing ladders that led nowhere worth going. Her phone buzzed. Richard again increasingly frantic texts about the Singapore deal. She turned it off entirely, that familiar electronic wait suddenly meaningless. "The board's probably voting me out today," she said casually. Daniel looked up sharp. "What?" "I've been AWOL for over a week. Canceled major deals, ignored everything. They have every right." "Doesn't that bother you?" "It should. 2 weeks ago, it would have killed me. Now—" She looked at Lily, drawing dinosaurs in her soup with her spoon. "Now I think maybe losing everything I thought mattered is how I find what actually does." "That's very zen of you." "That's very Tuesday at 5 a.m. of me." After dinner, they bundled up and went outside. Lily immediately made snow angels, then insisted everyone join her. Victoria hadn't laid in snow since childhood, hadn't felt that particular cold seep through her clothes, hadn't looked up at a white sky, and felt small in a good way. "Make a wish," Lily said. Snow wishes are powerful because they melt into the earth and grow into spring surprises. Victoria closed her eyes and wished. Not for Marcus's forgiveness or Daniel's affection or even Lily's continued acceptance. She wished to become someone worthy of all three. They built a snowman that looked more like a snow disaster, 3 different size lumps that wouldn't quite align. Lily declared it perfect because it had personality. Daniel found an old hat. Victoria contributed her scarf. The snowman looked deranged and wonderful, like their makeshift family assembled from broken pieces but somehow standing. "We should name him," Lily announced. "How about Marcus?" Victoria said without thinking. Daniel and Lily exchanged glances. "Because he's made of cold stuff but might warm up," Lily asked with startling insight. "Something like that." "Okay, Marcus the Snowman. We'll check on him every day until he melts or turns into a real boy." They went inside for hot chocolate, the kind from packets that Victoria's chef would have been appalled by, but that tasted like comfort. Lily fell asleep on the couch between them, her head on Victoria's shoulder, feet in Daniel's lap. "This is dangerous," Daniel said quietly. "What is this?" "Plain family." "Lily's getting attached. I'm getting attached. And you could disappear back to your real life any moment. This is my real life. That other thing, the empire and the money and the meetings, that was the game I played instead of living. You say that now, but when the novelty wears off, you think this is novelty. You think I'm slumming with the middle class for entertainment? I think you're running from something, and we're convenient." The words stung because they held truth, just not the truth Daniel thought. "I am running from 60 years of wrong choices, from the silence in 5 empty houses, from the mirror that shows me someone who chose spreadsheets over bedtime stories. But I'm not running to you and Lily for convenience. I'm running to you because you know what it's like to lose everything and still wake up the next day. Because Lily reminds me that joy exists despite evidence to the contrary. Because being here making soup and building terrible snowmen feels more real than any deal I've ever closed." Daniel studied her for a long moment. "I can't be your redemption project. I'm not trying to redeem myself through you. I'm trying to learn how to be human from people who are good at it. Is that so wrong? And when Marcus accepts you, when you have your son back, what happens to the Practice family?" Victoria felt the question like a physical weight. "You're not Practice. Neither is Lily. You're the family I'm choosing. Marcus is the family I'm trying to earn back. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Aren't they?" Before Victoria could answer, Lily stirred, mumbling something about dinosaurs and snow. Daniel carried her to bed, and Victoria followed part of the routine now. They tucked her in together, and Lily grabbed both their hands in her sleep, holding them like anchors. Standing in the hallway afterward, Daniel looked lost. "Sarah and I used to stand here sometimes watching her sleep, amazed we'd made this perfect thing." "You did. She's extraordinary. She's also fragile. If you leave, if you decide this isn't enough, then I'd be the worst kind of person. But Daniel, I've already been the worst kind of person. I left Marcus every day of his childhood, even when I was physically there. I'm trying to learn to be different, to stay, to show up even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable or unglamorous. By playing house with strangers. By learning what house feels like from people who know. Daniel's phone rang. Emma. Put her on speaker, see, Victoria said. Emma's voice filled the hallway, excited. You won't believe what Marcus just did. He hired someone. A kid aging out of foster care needs a job and stability. Marcus is teaching him coffee, but also everything else. How to open a bank account, how to interview, how to be professional. He said, and I quote, someone needs to show him it's never too late to learn something new. That's you, Victoria. That's your influence. After Emma hung up, Victoria and Daniel stood in the semi-dark hallway processing. He's becoming a teacher, Victoria said wonderingly. A mentor. Everything I should have been. He's becoming himself, Daniel corrected. Maybe for the first time he's not defining himself in opposition to you. He's just being. Because I showed up to clean his coffee machine. Because you showed up, period. They returned to the living room, but the moment felt different, heavier with possibility, with the weight of what they were building without naming it. I should go, Victoria said. Should and want are different things. What do you want, Daniel? Not what's safe or smart, but what do you actually want? He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I want to not be alone. I want Lily to have more than one adult who loves her. I want to come home to noise and chaos and someone else's shoes by the door. I want to stop being afraid that feeling something new means betraying something old. And I want you to stay. Tonight. Tomorrow. Tuesday mornings when you're covered in coffee grounds. Thursday nights when we make terrible soup. I want you to stay, even though it's too soon and too complicated and probably a mistake. Victoria moved closer, close enough to see the fear in his eyes, the hope, the resignation to more loss. I'm terrible at staying. I have decades of proof. So practice. Start small. Stay tonight. And tomorrow. Stay that too. One day at a time until you're good at it. That could take forever. Good thing Lily already claimed you for that long. They stood there, two broken people in a hallway that had seen love and loss and was somehow still standing. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the world in temporary perfection. Victoria's phone buzzed again. This time a message from Marcus. Emma says you're still there. Good. That little girl needs people. That Dad seems solid. Maybe having a real family will teach you what I needed. She showed Daniel, who read it twice. He's giving permission. He's giving more than that. He's giving possibility. So stay. I'll stay. She did stay, but not in the way either expected. They sat up talking until 3 a.m. Daniel telling stories about Sarah Victoria, telling stories about Marcus as a baby before she'd forgotten how to love him. They fell asleep on opposite ends of the couch, fully clothed hands almost touching across the middle distance. Lily found them that way in the morning, took one look, and went to make her own breakfast cereal with chocolate milk, a Lily special. The sound of her carefully trying not to wake them woke them both. Morning storm, Lily said cheerfully when they emerged. I made breakfast. It's probably terrible, but it's made with love, so it's actually perfect. She was right on both counts. Victoria stayed for breakfast, then lunch, then somehow it was dinner again. She and Daniel fixed 3 more cabinet doors, taught Lily to make paper snowflakes, had a competition to see who could make the worst snow angel. Victoria won by accidentally making what Lily called a snow demon. Don't you have an empire to run? Daniel asked as they cooked dinner together, moving around each other with increasing ease. Had, past tense. The board voted this afternoon. I'm officially retired. Daniel dropped his spatula. What? They kept 51%. I kept 49 and a golden parachute that would make you sick. I'm free. You're unemployed. I'm undefined. For the first time in 40 years, I'm not CEO of anything. I'm just Victoria, or Storm, depending on who's asking. And you're okay with that. I'm ecstatic about that. Do you know how exhausting it is to be important? To have every decision matter to thousands of people you'll never meet. To measure your worth in stock prices and market shares. So what now? Victoria looked at Lily teaching her stuffed dinosaurs to dance at Daniel's hands covered in flour at the life happening in this small kitchen. Now I learn to make soup. I show up for Tuesday mornings. I help with homework. I fix cabinets. I become someone worth knowing. You're already worth knowing. No, I'm worth noting. There's a difference. One's about accomplishment, the other's about connection. I've spent 60 years being notable. I'd like to spend whatever's left being knowable. Marcus called during dinner. The foster kid I hired, Tommy. He wants to meet you. Me, why? I might have told him about you, about showing up to learn even when you're successful. He doesn't believe someone like you would scrub coffee machines. Tomorrow, Saturday morning, he works the morning shift. I'll be there. And Victoria, maybe bring that family you're staying with. Tommy needs to see that families come in all shapes. His definition's pretty narrow: abuse and abandonment. Might help to see something different. After the call, Victoria looked at Daniel and Lily. Want to get coffee tomorrow? Meet Marcus's new employee. Can I get hot chocolate? Lily asked. You can get anything you want. Then yes, family coffee trip. She said it so easily, family. Like it was decided, done, real. Maybe it was. That night, Victoria stayed again, but this time in the guest room that had been Sarah's office. Daniel had apologized for the medical equipment still in the corner, the hospital bed frame he hadn't been able to remove. It's perfect, Victoria said, meaning it. The room was real honest about its history, not pretending loss hadn't happened here. She couldn't sleep, instead standing at the window watching snow fall on the deranged snowman they'd named Marcus. It was already starting to lean its face, sliding into something unrecognizable, but it was still standing still there, still trying to hold its form against inevitable change. Her phone lit up with a text from the real Marcus. Thank you for today, for staying with them, for learning to stay at all. She typed back, thank you for teaching me that staying is worth learning. See you tomorrow. Bring the kid. She sounds like someone I need to meet. She's someone everyone needs to meet. Like her dad. Victoria considered how to respond. He saved my life, literally then, figuratively now, daily. Do you love him? The question hung there, those 3 words containing multitudes. Did she love Daniel? She loved his steadiness, his grief that had taught him grace, his hands that built things, his terrible cooking that he served with pride. But love. That was a word she'd forgotten the meaning of if she'd ever known it. I'm learning what love looks like by watching him love Lily. Does that count? It's a start, more than we ever had. We could still have it if you'll let me keep trying. Every Tuesday, 5 a.m. That's all I can promise. That's everything. Saturday morning arrived bright and bitter cold. The snowman Marcus had partially melted, then refrozen into something abstract and disturbing. Lily insisted on fixing his hat before they left. He needs to look good for real Marcus, she explained. The drive to the coffee shop felt like approaching a final exam. Victoria had Daniel and Lily with her, had Marcus's invitation, had Tommy waiting to meet her. But still that familiar fear of not being enough, of being too much, of being wrong in some fundamental way. You're nervous, Daniel observed, terrified. Why? Because this matters. Because that foster kid is looking for proof that people can change. And I'm supposed to be that proof, but what if I'm not? What if I'm just a rich woman playing at redemption? Then you'd be exactly what he expects, and he learns nothing new. But if you're real, if you're actually trying, actually changing, then you show him it's possible. That's all any of us can do. Be proof that tomorrow doesn't have to look like yesterday. The shop was busy, Saturday morning crowd in full force. Marcus worked the register while a young man, Tommy, presumably manned the espresso machine with careful concentration. He was maybe 19, all angles and defensive posture, wearing confidence like armor made of paper. Marcus saw them enter and something crossed his face, relief maybe, or hope. He said something to Tommy, who looked up startled. Victoria recognized the look, someone who'd learned to expect disappointment, finding something unexpected. You came, Marcus said. You invited us, Victoria replied. This is Tommy. Tommy, this is Victoria, my mother. The word landed between them like a gift. My mother. Not biological parent, not the woman who gave birth to me, but mother. Present tense, possessive, claimed. Tommy wiped his hands, nervously extending one. Mr. Marcus says you're learning coffee. Badly, Victoria admitted. But learning. You. Same. Badly, but learning. He's a good teacher. The best, Victoria agreed, catching Marcus's eye. Patient with beginners. Even when they spray milk everywhere, Tommy added with a shy smile. Which I did. Yesterday, everywhere. I threw up my first day, Emma called from behind the counter. Victoria was just terrible. No vomit, but terrible. Now look at us, mediocre at best. Everyone laughed and the tension broke. Lily, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, tugged on Tommy's apron. Are you a coffee prince too? I don't know what that is. Someone who makes magic coffee that makes grown-ups less grumpy. Marcus is one. Maybe you are too. I don't think I'm magic anything. Lily studied him with that intense child's gaze. Wrong. Everyone's magic at something. You just haven't found yours yet. Or maybe you have, but don't know it's magic because it feels normal to you. Tommy looked at Marcus, then Victoria, then back at this tiny philosopher in a tutu and snow boots. What's your magic? Dinosaur facts and making sad people remember happy exists. What's yours? I fix computers, like really well. Have since I was a kid. That's definitely magic, Lily exclaimed. Computers are mysterious and sometimes evil. If you can fix them, you're basically a wizard. Tommy smiled real this time, armor slipping. I never thought of it that way. Most people don't think right, Lily informed him seriously. That's why they need coffee princes and computer wizards and dinosaur experts, to help them see better. Marcus made them all coffee, except Lily, who got the promised hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. They sat at a big table, Tommy joining them on his break, and Victoria watched her son interact with this kid he was mentoring. He was patient, kind, present in a way she'd never been. He'd learned to be the parent. She wasn't the teacher, she couldn't be the human she'd forgotten how to be. Tommy's helping me set up online ordering, Marcus explained, bringing the shop into the modern age. I told him he needs a website. Tommy added, enthusiasm breaking through caution. Social media presence, maybe some coding workshops, coffee and coding. You know, bring tech people in, create community around more than just caffeine. That's brilliant, Victoria said, meaning it. It was his idea, Marcus said with pride. With day 2, he's already improving things. That's what fresh eyes do. Tommy said, then caught himself. I mean, not that things needed improving. Everything needs improving, Marcus interrupted. That's how we grow. Victoria taught me that this week. I did? You showed up terrible at something and asked to learn. Do you know how hard that is for someone successful? To admit ignorance, to be bad at something publicly. It's terrifying, Victoria admitted. It's brave, Tommy said quietly. Most people would rather stay good at what they know than risk being bad at something new. Exactly, Lily chimed in. Like when I was scared to try ballet because I was already good at soccer. But Mommy said being bad at new things is how we get good at more things. Your mom sounds smart, Tommy said. She was. She's dead now, but her smart stayed behind in us. The casual devastation of it, the truth served simple. Tommy looked stricken, then something else recognized. Like he'd found fellow travelers in the land of loss. My mom's dead too, he said. Overdose when I was 12. That's sad, Lily said simply. But you're still here, so her love stayed behind in you too, even if it's hard to find sometimes. Daniel reached over, squeezing Victoria's hand under the table. This child, this miraculous child, healing people with dinosaur facts and simple truth. They stayed for 2 hours. Tommy showed Lily his coding on Marcus's laptop, her delight at making colors change on screen infectious. Marcus and Daniel talked about small business struggles, finding common ground in the challenge of making something from nothing. Victoria watched it all. This unlikely gathering, this family, not family, this proof that connection doesn't require blood or history, just presence and willingness. When they finally left, Tommy shook Victoria's hand again, firmer this time. Thank you for showing up, for proving Mr. Marcus right about people changing. Thank you for believing it's possible. Outside, Lily danced ahead sugar high from the chocolate. Daniel and Victoria walked slower, processing. "He's good with that kid," Daniel said. "He's becoming who I should have been." "No, he's becoming who he is. Your job isn't to have been different, it's to be different now." Every Tuesday at 5 a.m., and Thursday dinners, and Saturday snow disasters, and all the other days you choose to show up. They got home to find the snowman Marcus had completely collapsed, just a pile of snow with a hat on top. Lily stood over it solemnly. "He melted," she said, "but that's okay. The water will feed the grass, and the grass will feed the bunnies, and the bunnies will feed, actually what eats bunnies? Hawks," Daniel supplied. "Right. So Snowman Marcus becomes hawk food. That's the circle of life." "Everything becomes something else," Victoria said. "Exactly." Lily brightened. "Like you became Storm, and Daddy became less sad, and real Marcus became a teacher, and Tommy became a coffee prince. Everything changes into what it needs to be." That night, Victoria didn't even pretend to go home. She cooked dinner badly, but enthusiastically. She helped with Lily's homework about habitats. She fixed another cabinet door while Daniel watched with amused pride. She read 3 bedtime stories each with different voices that made Lily giggle. And when the house was quiet and Daniel sat beside her on the couch, she said, "I sold one of my houses today." "Which one?" "The Beacon Hill townhouse, the one you drove me to that first night." "Why?" "Because it was never home, just expensive storage for a person who didn't exist anymore." She paused. "I want to buy something here, in Millbrook. Something small, walking distance maybe, so I can be close but not imposing, present but not pressuring." "You could just stay here." "Daniel, I know it's too soon. I know we're both disasters. I know this is probably codependent and unhealthy, and all the things the grief counselor warned about, but Lily sleeps better when you're here. I sleep better. The house feels alive again. I'm not Sarah. I don't want you to be. Sarah was sunshine. You're Storm, remember? Different weather, both necessary." Victoria thought about necessary weather, about storms that clear the air, that bring rain to dying things that remind you you're alive with their intensity. "One day at a time," she asked. "One day at a time. Starting with tomorrow. Especially tomorrow. Lily wants to teach you dinosaur facts. Apparently your education is severely lacking. Everything important I need to know I'm learning from a 7-year-old. And a coffee prince. And a computer wizard. And a grieving construction worker who can't fix cabinets." "The best teachers," Victoria said. "The very best." Spring arrived the way it always did in New England, suddenly and all at once. Victoria stood in the backyard she'd come to think of as partly hers, watching Lily plant seeds in neat rows, her small hands patting soil with the kind of care usually reserved for sacred things. "These will be sunflowers," Lily explained, marking each spot with a popsicle stick labeled in her careful handwriting. "Mommy planted them the year before she died. They came up after she was gone, like she was still saying hello." 6 months had passed since Victoria crashed into that tree, into Daniel's life, into something resembling redemption. 6 months of Tuesday mornings with Marcus learning not just coffee, but the rhythm of his life, the language of his love. 6 months of Thursday dinners and Saturday adventures, and all the ordinary days between that had somehow become extraordinary. Stormace, Lily called, because that's who Victoria was now in this house that had become home. "Help me with the tomatoes, they're tricky." Victoria knelt in the dirt, her jeans already grass-stained, her manicure long abandoned. The woman who'd once spent thousands on weekly spa treatments now found peace in soil under her fingernails in the promise of things growing. "Deeper," Lily instructed. "Tomatoes like to be buried up to their necks, like when we bury Daddy in sand at the beach." "When have we buried Daddy at the beach?" "We haven't yet, but we will this summer. I already told him." This was Lily's way declaring futures into existence with the confidence of someone who'd learned early that life was short and plans were meant to be made boldly. Daniel emerged from the house carrying lemonade, and Victoria's heart did that thing it had been doing lately, that skip-catch-settle that felt like coming home. They hadn't put words to what they were becoming, just lived it day by day, careful not to examine it too closely, as if naming it might make it disappear. Marcus called, he said, handing her a glass. Wants to know if you're coming to the thing tonight. The thing was Tommy's high school equivalency graduation ceremony. The boy had thrown himself into education with the fervor of someone who'd just discovered doors could open instead of close. Marcus had been tutoring him Victoria, helping with essays, Daniel teaching him practical math through construction estimates, and Lily providing enthusiastic encouragement and dinosaur stickers for every past practice test. Of course I'm coming, Victoria said. I helped him with his entrance essay. You rewrote his entrance essay, Daniel corrected. I edited, aggressively. There's a difference. His original was 3 sentences, Lily added, not looking up from her planting. I saw it. It said, I want to learn. School didn't work before. Maybe it will now. Storm made it into 3 pages about resilience and determination and other big words. He had all those thoughts. I just helped him find the words. Like Marcus is helping him find coffee, Daniel said. Like you're helping me find... He stopped, aware of Lily's eager attention. Find what Daddy... Purpose, he said finally. Storm's helping me remember I wanted to be more than just someone who builds other people's dreams. It was the closest they'd come to talking about the future, about the community center. Daniel had been sketching late at night about the nonprofit Victoria had been quietly establishing to fund vocational training for foster kids aging out of the system, about the way their separate griefs were weaving into something that looked like hope. Marcus arrived at 4. Emma with him, both dressed for the ceremony, but stopping by with coffee and news. Tommy got a job offer, Marcus announced. Tech startup downtown. Entry level, but with training benefits, the works. That's wonderful, Victoria said, then paused. But the shop will survive. This was always supposed to be his launching pad, not his landing place. Marcus looked at his mother, really looked at her the way he'd been learning to do. You taught me that helping someone fly means letting them go when they're ready. Victoria felt tears threaten. I never taught you that. I never taught you anything worth knowing. You taught me it this year, by watching you with Lily. You love her enough to be temporary if that's what she needs, permanent if that's better. That's real love. Not holding on or letting go, but being whatever someone needs you to be. Emma squeezed Marcus's hand, and Victoria saw the secret in the gesture, the careful way Emma moved the glow that had nothing to do with spring sunshine. You're pregnant, Victoria breathed. Emma nodded, tears immediate. 8 weeks. We weren't going to say anything yet, but you can't keep secrets from family, Marcus finished. And somehow, impossibly, that's what this is, all of this. He gestured at the garden, the house, the unlikely collection of people who'd found each other through catastrophe and coffee. Family. Lily, who'd been pretending not to listen while planting seeds, launched herself at Marcus with a shriek of joy. A baby. A coffee prince baby. Will it like dinosaurs? Can I teach it about velociraptors? Oh, can I babysit? You're 7, Daniel pointed out. I'll be 8 when the baby comes. That's practically grown. That's practically still 7, Daniel countered, but he was smiling, pulling Marcus into a hug that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. Congratulations, both of you. Victoria stood frozen, overwhelmed by the reality of it. A grandchild. Marcus was giving her the chance to be a grandmother, despite everything, because of everything, through the strange alchemy of showing up and staying put. Mom, Marcus said, and the word was still new enough to stop her heart. You okay? I'm going to be a grandmother, she said wonderingly. You're going to be Grandma Storm, Lily corrected. Because regular grandma is boring and you're not boring. You're someone who learned to make coffee at 60 so you could talk to your son. That's the opposite of boring. 61, Victoria corrected automatically, then found herself laughing. I'm 61 and about to become a grandmother, and I live part-time in a house with a 7-year-old who thinks I'm magic, and a man who's teaching me to build instead of buy, and I've never been happier. Part-time? Daniel asked quietly. Well, I do still have my apartment. The small 2-bedroom she'd bought 3 blocks away, her concession to propriety and space, and the fear of pushing too hard too fast. That you've slept in exactly 4 nights in 3 months, Daniel pointed out. 5 nights. The night you had food poisoning doesn't count. You were here by 2 a.m. throwing up in our bathroom. Our bathroom. Victoria caught the pronoun. Daniel flushed, but didn't take it back. You know what I mean. Do I? They were saved from the conversation by Tommy's arrival. He'd filled out in 6 months good food and stability working their magic. The defensive hunch was gone, replaced by something that wasn't quite confidence yet, but was heading that direction. You all came, he said, disbelief evident. Of course we came, Lily said. We're your people. People show up for each other's important days. I don't really have people. Wrong, Lily said firmly. You have us. We're not much. I'm 7. Daddy cries in the shower, Storm is learning to be human, Marcus makes coffee, and Emma makes art. But we're yours. That's something. That's everything, Tommy corrected, his voice rough. The ceremony was in the community center gymnasium, fluorescent lights making everything harsh and too bright. But when Tommy walked across that stage, when they called his name, when he took that diploma with hands that shook only slightly, the lighting didn't matter. Victoria found herself crying, and she wasn't alone. Daniel's hand found hers. Marcus stood to applaud. Lily whistled with 2 fingers like Mrs. Henderson had taught her, and Emma documented everything with her artist's eye for moments that mattered. Afterward, they went to Marcus's shop, closed for the evening, but open special for their celebration. Tommy made everyone coffee, even Lily, who got decaf disguised as grown-up drinks. They sat around the big table in the back, the one usually reserved for coffee cuppings and business meetings, but tonight dedicated to something more. I have an announcement, Victoria said, standing with her coffee like it was champagne. I've been working on something, with lawyers and accountants and all the people I used to use to make money instead of meaning. But this time it's different. She pulled out a folder, legal documents Victoria style, but with Hart Daniel style. The Foster to Future Foundation, funded initially with the sale of 3 of my houses, vocational training mentorship, and 6-month paid internships for kids aging out of foster care. Tommy, if you're willing, I'd like you to be our first success story, and eventually maybe a mentor yourself. Tommy stared at the papers, reading them slowly, carefully, like they might disappear. This is real as burnt pizza and dinosaur facts and Tuesday mornings at 5 a.m. But why? Victoria looked at Marcus, at Daniel, at Lily, drawing dinosaurs on napkins, at Emma, already sketching the scene for posterity. Because family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up, who stays, who teaches you that tomorrow can be different from yesterday. You're part of our tomorrow, Tommy, if you want to be. Tommy nodded, unable to speak, and Marcus pulled him into a hug that said everything words couldn't. Group hug, Lily demanded, and suddenly they were all embracing this unlikely family built from broken pieces and coffee grounds, and the stubborn insistence that love didn't have to look like anyone expected. They stayed late planning futures that had seemed impossible 6 months ago. Marcus and Emma's baby would arrive in November. The community center Daniel wanted to build could use Victoria's foundation as an anchor tenant. Tommy's tech job started in 2 weeks, but he'd still work Saturdays at the shop teaching other foster kids what Marcus had taught him. And Lily would start 2nd grade with a stable, strange, wonderful family that no one could have predicted. I need to tell you something, Daniel said to Victoria as they cleaned up, the others having gone home. Lily was asleep in the back booth, covered with someone's jacket. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just true. He took a breath. I love you. Victoria's hand stilled on the cup she was washing. Daniel, I know it's too soon. I know we're both still grieving other things. I know this whole situation is improbable and probably unhealthy according to every self-help book. But I love you. Not as Sarah's replacement, not as Lily's substitute mother. You, Storm, Victoria. The woman who crashed into a tree and then into our lives and made everything better by being terrible at coffee and perfect at showing up. I don't know if I know how to love back, Victoria said carefully. I thought I loved Richard Marcus's father, but that was possession. I thought I loved Marcus, but that was projection. I don't trust myself to know what love actually is. Then let me teach you. The way you taught me that starting over at 40 isn't failure. The way Marcus taught Tommy that coffee is about more than caffeine. The way Lily teaches everyone that dinosaurs make everything better. What if I hurt you? What if I forget how to stay? Daniel turned her to face him. Soap suds on his hands, coffee grounds in his hair. This beautiful disaster of a man who'd saved her from more than just a wrecked Mercedes. Then I'll remind you, every Tuesday at 5 a.m., every Thursday at dinner, every Saturday in the garden. I'll remind you how to stay the same way you remind me how to hope. That's a lot of reminding. Good thing we have time. Do we? All the time that matters. Today, tomorrow, next Tuesday, one day at a time, remember. Victoria looked at this man offering her not just love, but the patience to learn it, the space to fail at it, the grace to grow into it. I love you too, I think. Maybe. In whatever way I'm capable of. That's enough, more than enough. That's everything. He kissed her then there in Marcus's coffee shop with Lily sleeping nearby and the future sprawling uncertain but no longer empty before them. It wasn't a first kiss. They'd had a few careful ones over the months, but it was a declaration kiss, a promise kiss, a kiss that tasted like coffee and possibility and the particular sweetness of second chances. Gross, Lily said sleepily from her booth, but also nice, like Brussels sprouts with bacon. Were you awake that whole time? Daniel asked. Obviously, you guys are loud whisperers. Also, Storm, you do know how to love. You love me and Marcus and Tommy and even grumpy Mrs. Henderson. You just love quietly with actions instead of words, like how you fixed all our cabinets and taught Tommy to write and learned coffee even though you hate mornings. How did you get so wise? Victoria asked. Dinosaur facts. They teach you everything. They drove home together because it was home now, officially or not. The house that had felt like Sarah's museum 6 months ago now felt like theirs. Photos of all of them covering the walls. Lily's art mixing with Emma's. Victoria's coffee attempts documented in increasingly less disastrous pictures. Daniel's community center plans spread across the dining table. That night, after Lily was asleep, Victoria and Daniel sat on the porch, watching spring turn the world green. The garden Lily had planted was already showing shoots ambitious and fragile, but reaching toward sun. Marcus texted, Victoria said, showing him her phone. He wants me to help train the new foster kids, teach them the business side while he teaches them coffee. Full circle. More like a spiral, coming back to the same place but higher up with better perspective. Very philosophical for someone who claimed not to know anything 6 months ago. I learned from the best, a 7-year-old with a dinosaur obsession and a certainty that storms make things grow. Daniel pulled her closer, and she let herself be pulled. Let herself rest against someone else's strength. Let herself be held without having to hold everything together. Tell me about the community center, she said. The real dream, not the practical version. So he did painting pictures with words of a place where kids like Tommy could learn trades, where people like Marcus could teach what they knew, where art and commerce and community could intersect, where Lily could run dinosaur camps and Victoria could teach business skills, and everyone could build something that mattered. It sounds expensive, Victoria said when he finished. It sounds impossible. Good thing I know a lot about making impossible things happen. Bad thing is, I only know how to do it with money and force. Good thing you're learning new ways. Victoria's phone buzzed. Marcus again. Mom, thank you for tonight, for Tommy, for showing up, for staying, for becoming who you are now. I forgive you for who you were then completely. Finally, it's time. She showed Daniel through tears that came sudden and overwhelming. It's time, she repeated. He forgives me. More importantly, you can forgive yourself now. Can I, 61 years of wrong choices fixed in 6 months of right ones, not fixed, balanced, transformed, made into fertilizer for whatever comes next, like Snowman Marcus becoming grass food. Exactly like that. They sat until the night grew cold, then went inside to the warmth of the house that had taught Victoria what home meant. She checked on Lily, sleeping surrounded by dinosaurs and dreams. She straightened the plans for the community center. She set the coffee maker for morning, though she'd be at Marcus's shop before it brewed. Stay, Daniel said from the bedroom doorway. Not tonight, that was already decided. But stay, period. Stay always. Stay in this life they were building from the wreckage of other lives. I'm staying, Victoria confirmed. No more apartment. No more pretending this is temporary. I'm staying. Even when it's hard. Especially then. That's when staying matters most. That night, lying beside Daniel in the bed that had been Sarah's but was becoming theirs, Victoria thought about time, how she'd wasted so much of it, how little might be left, how the only time that mattered was the present, this moment, this choice to stay. Her phone showed 11:47, 13 minutes until tomorrow, 13 minutes until another day of chances to get it right, or at least less wrong. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked in the darkness. "Tomorrow. Marcus is teaching me latte art. I'm going to be terrible at it." "Perfect. Lily needs to see you fail at something new. She's starting to think you're actually magic." "Aren't I? I turned a billionaire into a grandmother who plants tomatoes." "That's not magic. That's just becoming yourself." After 61 years, better late than never. Better late than alone. The clock turned to midnight. Tuesday. 5 a.m. would come soon, and with it, Marcus and coffee and the continuing education of Victoria Langford, who was learning that the most important things couldn't be bought or sold or negotiated. They could only be received like grace, like forgiveness, like love from a 7-year-old who thought dinosaurs solved everything. "I love you," she said to the darkness, to Daniel, to the universe that had crashed her into a tree to save her life. "I love you too, Storm," Daniel replied. "Now go to sleep. You have coffee to learn, and a life to live, and a family to love. Tomorrow's going to be beautiful." And it was. Spring deepened into summer, and the garden Lily had planted grew wild and ambitious. The sunflowers reached toward sky, the tomatoes heavy on their vines. The community center moved from dream to blueprint to foundation poured. Tommy started his job but kept his Saturday shifts teaching newer kids what Marcus had taught him. The foster program grew funded by Victoria's money, but built on Marcus's patience and Daniel's practicality, and somehow always Lily's dinosaur facts, making everything better. Emma's pregnancy progressed, and Victoria found herself at every appointment, every milestone, every moment Marcus would allow. She learned about ultrasounds and morning sickness and the way her son's face transformed when he looked at the grainy image of his child. "We want you in the delivery room," Emma said one afternoon. All of them gathered for Sunday dinner at what was now officially Victoria and Daniel's house. "If you want to be there." "You want me there for the birth." "You're the grandmother, Grandma Storm. Where else would you be?" Victoria cried. Then the kind of tears that washed things clean. Marcus reached over, taking her hand, and she felt the circuit complete the family she'd broken, rebuilt in a new configuration, stronger for having been tested. "It's a girl," Marcus said quietly. "We found out yesterday." "A girl," Victoria breathed. "What will you name her?" "Sarah," Emma said. "Sarah Lily Victoria, for all the women who taught us how to love." Lily, who'd been suspiciously quiet, exploded. "Sarah like Mommy, and Lily like me, and Victoria like Storm." She turned to Daniel. "Daddy, the baby's going to have all our names. That means she's all of ours, right?" "Right, monster. All of ours." And she was. When Sarah Lily Victoria arrived on a November morning, screaming and perfect and absolutely certain of her place in the world, she had a crowd waiting. Victoria was there for the birth, holding Emma's hand, coaching her through contractions with the same steady presence she'd learned from Tuesday mornings. Daniel was in the waiting room with Lily, who'd made a welcome to Earth sign with dinosaurs wearing party hats. Tommy came straight from his job, still in his work clothes, carrying balloons, and the kind of joy that comes from witnessing families form from nothing. When the nurse placed the baby in Victoria's arms for the first time, she felt something reconstruct itself in her chest. All the missed moments with Marcus, all the absence and wrong choices, they didn't disappear. But they transformed into this, a second chance in the shape of a tiny girl who would grow up knowing she was loved by a grandmother who'd learned finally to stay. "She looks like you," Marcus said, watching his mother hold his daughter. "She looks like hope," Victoria corrected. "Like tomorrow. Like everything we're building from the broken pieces." "She looks like family," Lily announced, having snuck into the room despite rules about children in maternity wards. Our weird, perfect, accidentally on purpose family. And that's what they were. Not the family anyone would have designed, but the family that had emerged from crashes and coffee, from grief and grace, from the simple radical act of showing up. Victoria looked around the hospital room at these people who'd saved her. Marcus, who'd taught her that forgiveness was possible. Daniel, who'd shown her that love could grow from ashes. Lily, who'd reminded her that joy was a choice. Emma, who'd welcomed her despite having every reason not to. Tommy, who'd proven that families could be chosen and built and earned. "Thank you," she said to all of them, to the universe, to the tree that had stopped her car and started her life. "Thank you for catching me when I fell." "We didn't catch you," Daniel said, kissing her forehead. "You caught yourself. We just reminded you that you had hands." Baby Sarah made a sound that might have been agreement, or might have been gas, but Lily declared it was definitely agreement, because babies were wise like dinosaurs, ancient and knowing, and absolutely certain that tomorrow would come. And it would. Tuesday after Tuesday, 5 a.m. after 5 a.m., coffee and community, and the complex, beautiful work of becoming who they'd always been, meant to be a family that chose each other over and over, one day at a time. Outside the hospital window, snow began to fall, the first of the season, covering the world in temporary perfection that would melt and return and melt again the way all things did, the way love did, constant and changing, ending and beginning, forever, and right now. "Look," Lily said, pointing at the snow. "It's starting again." And it was. Everything was starting again, the way it always could if you were brave enough to crash, kind enough to help, and stubborn enough to stay. The coffee shop thrived. The community center grew. Tommy mentored newer kids. Baby Sarah learned to laugh. Lily started second grade with a presentation about unusual families that made her teacher cry. Daniel built things that mattered. Marcus forgave completely. Emma painted their portrait chaotic and beautiful and absolutely true. And Victoria learned that 61 was not too late to begin. That love was not a language, but an action. That showing up mattered more than showing off. That coffee at 5 a.m. with your son was worth more than all the deals in Singapore. She learned that storms did make things grow. She learned to stay.